Hey, what do you want to talk about?
We'll go back to who Jimmy is.
Uh-huh.
Jimmy.
Yeah, that's fine.
Where you started, how you got into the construction world, your background, and then just go from there, really, where you are now. You've done a lot abroad, haven't you? You say the Antarctica. That is literally Antarctica.
Namibia, Antarctica, Namibia.
We'll touch on all them. That's cool.
That'd be fine.
Yeah, and then, because you popped up something the other day about Namibia or something, I think you said, didn't you? On LinkedIn, I mentioned something. I thought, write that down. I thought you'd been away. Yeah, I didn't realise it.
It's the water side of stuff as well.
Yeah, I'm interested in the water stuff as well. You said about the drainage and the houses and all that stuff. That's quite interesting. Okay. I like that one. And then, a bit of mental health stuff. I know you've gone through quite a bit recently. I know, and however much you want to, I'd never push on anything, whatever you're comfortable with. Honestly, wherever you want to take it, I'll say I'm not one to push people when they don't want to be speaking about something. But,
yeah, that's fine.
I've always said, actually, the funniest thing about everything I do is that we don't really talk much because we're men. And I can't really say that now because we've made a podcast. I'm kind of contradicting myself.
Talking,
we don't talk. But we're trying to fucking...
Brilliant.
But yeah, let's get going. All good now? Hello and welcome, the Construction Sport Podcast. We have someone who's flown here today. Come on down. The south headed... How long's this flight?
It was an hour and 20 minutes.
And that's from what airport?
That was Inverness. Down to Luton, and then a wee drive round from Luton to here.
Super.
So I made it eventually.
There we go. No, top man for coming down. Appreciate a lot.
All right.
And then you're kipping over, and then you're heading to the installer show.
Got installer show Tuesday through to Thursday, so yeah, that'll be quite good.
Are you flying back Thursday night?
Thursday night, my friend lives over in, he's just outside Kidderminster, so staying with him on
cool.
Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and then fly back home on Thursday. So
and how far is Inverness from you, where you are? Because you are, where are you now?
Well, I'm actually in Inverness.
You're in Inverness.
I mean, but I'm just kind of on the outskirts. Towards the loch itself. So.
Yeah.
Aye, so.
It's a beautiful part of the world, isn't it?
Oh, aye, definitely.
We met last summer, the rally, wasn't it?
I started last summer, the rally.
I had done wore the shirt.
You have still got your shirt on there? Aye, no, we met at HIS, the famous builders and merchant up there. So
unbelievable place, isn't it?
Aye, they've got everything. Absolutely everything.
Well, we were recommended there through a gentleman on my LinkedIn, and he said, if you guys, so I just put on LinkedIn that we're on our way, and he said, if you're going through Inverness, go to the, what is it, Industrial Supplies?
Aye. Callum it would have been Callum McIntosh.
Yes, it was. Yeah. Callum McIntosh, because he's our cousin's or nephew or family's business.
It's his granddad's business.
Yeah. Spot on that, is it? Yeah, Callum. I do need to speak to him. He said that we must have a call.
Because he was the president of the Scottish branch of the Plant Operators.
Yes, So I thought that when it come through, I thought, he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. And then he's recommended that. He says Aladdin's Cave, that shop.
The Aladdin's Cave of stuff.
Yeah, what a brilliant place. I've literally used my rake that I bought from there. I've got a flat rake sort of thing, a drag. I used it for some tarmac last week, and I was like, I needed it. I was kidding. I was like, I'm going to have to give it a good clean up. So, what a shot. But that's an unbelievable part of the world, isn't it? We loved it up there, didn't we?
It's quiet. It's quiet. That's what you want. Do you know what I mean? I do a lot in England with the Waffle company, Plumbers, Chartered Institute, and flying down's easy. A lot of people don't get that, though. A lot of people think you're away,
Yeah.
What I say is, you can probably keep this in if you want, to the arse end of nowhere. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, when you're at Workshop Company events, you fly to Gatwick, you're into central London in 40 minutes on the train.
Yeah.
And then anything you're going to is actually in the city itself. So you're in a 10-minute walk, really, from anywhere. Yeah. So you could be anywhere in London by 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. I noticed it with the UK, other things. I went to a stag do in New Edinburgh. A stag do in Edinburgh. And my little boy had just been born, so Miss was like, you're not going away for too long. And then everyone was like, we're all going to drive and get trains and meet somewhere in the middle of England. A couple drove to a stag do. I was like, who fucking drives to a stag do? Jesus Christ. That's madness. But I said to myself, we can get the train up, meet there, and then go this and that. And they all was banging about with it. I was like, sod that. I'm just going to get on a fucking flight from Stansted. So easy.
I know. It's minutes as well. That's the thing.
Yeah. It's so easy.
Most of the time.
I think people think, by the time you check all your luggage and all that, you just travel light.
Travel light, a few things in a bag, coffee at the airport, and you're on the plane. That's it.
Yeah, for sure. No madness. But the so where are you? You work up in Inverness as well?
I work in Inverness. I'm a plumbing lecturer. But I am a plumber to trade. I served my time January 94 to January 98. Yeah. We had a big company up there, A&L King, but they sold out to Stuart Milne, the house builders, in 2007. But no, I worked there 94 to 98. And they'd then subbed quite a lot of their work out. Yeah. So they were doing less and less. We had all the Tesco's contracts. But the thing with the Tesco contract was you'd maybe drive 2-3 hours to a Tesco shop to tighten the taps. And then it was like, what else are we doing today? Well, that's it.
Yeah.
But you were getting paid, so it was kind of like, you just did it anyway.
Yeah.
And then it was like, I'll take a slow drive home. Oh, okay. And it got to the point where they came to see me and they went, we've not really got the work to keep the amount of plumbers we've got on. And I went, no, that's fine. I'm a plumber. I'll get a job somewhere. And I had a job that was on the Friday, and the following Monday I had a job. So
yeah,
that was fine. You know, it was great. And I worked for my mate Stuart for 2 years in the Aberfeldy, nice wee quiet bit of Scotland. And then I got the job with the voluntary services overseas in Namibia.
Superb.
And I taught there for 2.5 years, so it was good. I enjoyed it.
What's it like going out to Namibia when you've not been to Namibia before? What was your thoughts?
My thought was, I mean, when you watch, I mean, we'd watch. You know, we grew up with Live Aid.
Well, this is exactly my head's thinking now. Dry mud everywhere. And
Namibia's the oldest desert in the world, so that was my thought was there's going to be nothing there.
Is it the hottest point in the world as well? Is that Namibia?
Somewhere else. It could well be, but it's certainly I'm sure it's one of the driest countries, but it's the oldest. It's the oldest desert. It's 5 million years old. The Namib Desert. But I was right on the edge. I was in a tourist town called Swakopmund, and I mean, VSO at that point, I don't know if they're still in Namibia, but they put out people in the April, in the June, and in the October. And I'd been sat hungover one morning, and it came on the TV. It was a guy who used to do That's Life back in the day, Gavin, and he was doing this thing, BBC Lifeline. Oh, would you like to work in Africa? And I'm like, we're looking for professionals. I said to my dad, I think that's professional. And he went, give them a call, see, you know. So I called them up and they went, yeah, but we've actually just sent people, but we'll keep your name on file. And I thought, yeah, sure you will. Never hear from you again. And they sent through a list of other organisations that were looking for volunteers. One of them was the Quakers of America. I thought, I'd go to the Quakers of America. And at that time, bevying up every weekend. And my dad says, well, you do know they don't drink. And I went, nah, I could go without it, you know. And I was in the process of filling that out. And VSO came back to me and said, we're interviewing. They were in Putney. They were in Putney in London.
Yeah.
We're interviewing in Putney.
Proper London, proper South London.
Proper South
Wrong
London.
side of the river.
And they said, if you want to come down for the interview in December. So I went down, interviewed in the December, and a week later they wrote back to me, yeah, you've got in. So we did a lot of our training in Birmingham, Harborne, or Harborne, is however you want to pronounce it, because I got there to go for my first day's training. I caught the train down, and I jumped into the taxi and I said to the guy, I'm going to Harborne Hall. And he's like, where? And I was like, Harborne Hall. And he said, no, I got a clue. And I said, I'm like, drop the R's. I'm like, Harborne Hall. Oh, Harborne Hall, right. Oh, nobody else. Like, yeah, okay. So we done our training. It was three lots of training, and then we were out in that was the June of 2001. We went out there.
Really, yeah.
And I mean, we went over. It was a group of 18.
June 2021. 2001.
2001.
That's early doors.
Yeah, so 2001. I was 24, going to 25 at that point, and I was the youngest in the team at that point. It's quite funny because when we arrived at the airport, that was the only flight coming in that day. It's a 12-hour flight from Heathrow, but it kind of goes Heathrow to Frankfurt, and then Frankfurt down to Windhoek, which is the capital in Namibia. And we all got there. And my mate Roland, who now lives in Bournemouth, he was Bournemouth there, but he kind of moved about a bit. He said, have you changed any money? And I said, no, but they're giving us money when we get there. And he said, yeah, but I don't know if that's coming, because it's Sunday morning. He said, don't know if that's coming today or not. And I went, aye, okay. So I'd like 130 quid in my wallet. I thought I'll change that, because it was 10 to 1 was the ratio. So you were getting 10 rand pretty much to the pound.
Yep.
So I went into the bureau and I said, I'd like to change that. She said, have you got your passport on you? I said, yeah, it's outside in the minibus. So I went outside. There was 2 minibuses. Both of them were gone. The car park was empty. And I'm like, all right then, aye, okay. I thought, well, they said it was about 40k in the town. 40k is what, 25 mile. I'll take 40 minutes, maybe 50. Okay, they're bound to realise, you know. It was about 45 minutes later. Could Mr. Hendry please come to that? And it was like, yeah, they realise they've left you behind and they're coming to get you. I was like,
yeah.
So
super.
This other guy came back on his own. He's like, we forgot you. I was like, I said, I went in to change my money. Yeah. But no, I was there for the next 2.5 years. It was great. I worked for, there's quite a lot of Germans in Namibia. It's an ex-German colony.
Is it? Yeah.
And it was taken off them after the First World War. Mm-hmm. and the Brits took it over.
Well, it was late then, wasn't it? Yeah.
I mean, there's a massive German community there, and I was actually working for quite a lot of them were Germans.
Really?
There's Germans and Afrikaners
Yep.
who were running this training centre, the Namibian Institute of Mining Technology. Rossing had set up. Rossing are a big mining operation worldwide, and they've got the biggest uranium mine is there in Namibia. There's a hole in the earth about 3 miles deep.
Is there? Yeah.
And I mean, they're getting the yellow uranium out there constantly.
Yeah.
So they'd set up this training centre, and they were looking for plumbing lecturers. So went over there, and
I went to lecture as well.
I was lecturing over there as well. But I mean,
so when you say lecturing, you're literally teaching plumbing.
Teaching plumbing. Yeah. I mean, because it's a British colony as well, they use British standards. So you're teaching at the same standard as what you would teach over here.
Yeah.
So it's fine. The only difference I found, and it's something that we're starting to see more and more in the industry, is where we got a whole apprenticeship. What you had there was you had a German guy would come over and he'd teach maybe 14 guys. He'd teach 2 of them to do bathroom seats. 2 of them would learn how to put hot water cylinders
So you said about yourself, they actually like this, yeah.
So that they're de-skilling the workforce. So you're not going to move on anywhere.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of folk go, oh, you can't do that. But we're starting to see that more and more in this country. You're getting guys who only do heat pumps. And I mean, we've seen a big reduction in the amount of mechanical apprentices coming through because Audi will send their guys to their Audi training workshop. Toyota will do the same. And it's one of those ones that you don't want to teach them everything because you're giving them a skill set that they can then go away and do something else somewhere else.
You're so right.
Aye.
I see it in the groundworks, and this is a penny that just dropped in my head now, because we're working between a few rail jobs, highways jobs, house bashing jobs, infrastructure, just maintenance jobs, but we've got to go through every fucking ticket all the time, for every different one, to be able to do that. And actually, by the time our lads have gone through his tickets and got on the ground, they're doing the same thing. Well, they're doing, in some way, it's the same thing.
Aye.
But I'm like, why not just give all these guys a ticket that covers them all for all these sectors? But it's just, they go, no, but as if every little sector is going, no, just teach them just our sector. So we don't want to leave that and go into another one.
I mean, my friend started with a facilities management company recently, and he had to go on a jigsaw training course.
Yep.
And then it was a grinders training course. And he's like, this is a day of course. And he goes, jigsaw, grinder. He says, but I want more.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, we've seen it, especially in our industry, things like hot works, whereas we used to do a lot of stuff with blowtorches.
Yep.
They're not really keen on you having a blowtorch inside now. So everything's press fitting.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And, you got your press ticket. And, I mean, I was in Stantor in Ireland in September with a load of other plumbers, like, say, your Andy Cam was there, Marcus Bull was there, and a heap of other well-known plumbers. And we all got put through our press ticket as well, so that, we could say, well, we've been trained on the press gun and we know how to use it. And fair play, we got that for nothing from Instantor for being there on the day, but that is the way the industry is going. It's getting to that point where you're like, well, I know how to do it and I could do it, but then if someone comes back later on and goes, oh, you made all these fittings and that one burst, have you got your ticket? And you're like, didn't realise I needed a ticket. Yeah. But it's something that I've discussed more and more, because one of the big problems I see is the amount of trades we've got out there who have got no qualification. Yeah. And I raised it on Fixed Radio once, and it was Clive Holland that brought it up, and he was questioning me about it. And I said, we've gotten to such a stage where anyone can paint plumber on the side of a van. Yeah. So they paint plumber on the van, they get a shiny Google advert, and they go off. And they might have no plumbing qualifications whatsoever. Yep. And then when it comes to it, it's like, oh, you've ruined the house. Oh, move on to the next one. Move on to the next one. Yeah. And I was on a...
He's not insured, you're not insured.
No, that's it. I mean, it's unbelievable. But, I mean, it really hit home. One of my mates, he's a mechanic lecturer, and he had a guy who was really failing. And the guy went, oh, if I don't get my tickets, it means I can't set up on my own. And my mate went, really realistically, they're not stopping him setting up on his own at any point. Yeah. Nothing at all. Yeah. And it belittles the qualification that a lot of guys have spent a lot of time getting. Yeah. A lot of people have put pride into making sure that they're properly qualified.
So is there the quick, like, MVQ plumbing ones out there now? I know
you can do
electrical there is, isn't
you
there?
Can do you can do a kind of a short 6-month course, things like that. Yeah. But I mean, one of my mates, he works for a facilities management company, and he says, we've not got any plumbers. We've got gas engineers and we've got joiners, and each will have a go at plumbing. And you could see the results. I mean, my friend Gordon recently got his whole bathroom suite done, and he says the drain's it's not draining away. And I said, that's because they've taken that pipe there from the wash hand basin, which is 1.25 inches, and they've taken it over there at the stack. Now, the maximum you can take that is 1.7 metres for various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you now, they've ran that whole thing, which is measuring 3.7, 3.8 metres, in the same pipe.
Yeah.
Because they haven't understood the science behind the subject.
Yeah.
And if they actually knew, they could have done this, this, and this. And I fitted an anti-siphon trap for him, just to introduce that air. And he's like, it's like night and day. And I was like, yeah, that's because I wasn't going to go in and start breaking out tiles to redo that pipe. But you get very seldom will you actually get that, because a lot of folk, I'm a bathroom fitter.
Yeah.
All right, okay. And I had somebody say that to me a couple of years ago. I'm a bathroom fitter. I'm a time-served bathroom fitter. And I went, well, how do you mean you're a time-served bathroom fitter? I said, so what, are you a plumber? No, I'm a time-served bathroom fitter. And I said, right, okay. And I looked into it, I said, so have you got an SVQ in fitted interiors? Because, no, I'm time-served though. I'm like, that's just something you've made up. You're not actually qualified to do anything. He's
qualified himself.
You've qualified yourself. And I mean, I've spoken about it a couple of times. A lot of folks say, I talk about protected status.
Yeah.
Which is, solicitors have got it, doctors have got it. You can't claim you're that unless you have that qualification. We don't have that.
Yeah.
And there was a guy in 2020, Clive Wheel, who was done by the HSE for giving out bad health and safety. There was a lot of folk getting affected by it, and turned out he was self-employed, so he only had to prove to himself he could do the job. Folk, like major building companies, not taking them on.
Especially when so plumbers aren't qualified to deal with gas, are they? That's the next level up.
That's something that was discussed, and I remember back on Rogue Traders back in the day, Matt Allwright, they used to say, don't employ a plumber unless he's Corgi registered.
Corgi, that's the word. Yeah, that's just in my head, what's the word?
And now it's gas safe, and it was like,
gas safe, yeah.
You've kind of not quite got the right thing there, Yeah, if you want to work on gas, you need to be gas safe registered. Now, one of the things a lot of people don't take on board is you can't just go in the gas safe register.
Yeah.
You've got your qualification, and say I'm working for Construction Sports Gas Division.
Yep.
You go, you get me your ticket, boom. It's got a number on there. You can only do work for yourself on that, for that company on that one.
Yep.
If you want to do it for yourself, say the weekend, we call it homers, I don't know what you call it down here, doing your own jobs, you need to go and get...
what do you call it? Yeah, PJ.
PJ.
Job. Yeah.
You need to go and get on the gas safe register in your own right.
Yeah.
So you might have two. You'll have one for your own work and one for the company you're working for.
Yep.
And you need both of those to do it. Yeah. And a lot of people don't. There's little intricacies in the gas safety laws, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
And there was a guy doing a chip shop, and he'd been caught out at it.
Yeah.
And it had been leaking, and they'd gone to his employer and went, "Oh, he's used your gas number." Well, we didn't know anything about that. And I said, what you'll probably find is they did know about it, but they're not going to put 12 guys out of business or give themselves a bad name in the gas safe register because they've said to one of their guys, I only got to do that. Nobody will worry about it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, one of the things I didn't really take on board at the time when I was serving my apprenticeship is we've got two down in England. They'll train them to what's called classed NVQ, National Vocational Qualification, level 2.
Yep.
But in Scotland, we train everyone to level 3.
Okay.
If you want to teach, you need to be at level 3 as well, which is kind of advanced craft. And you get 2 certificates. You can get your NVQ, SVQ, and you also get your MA, your Modern Apprenticeship. Your Modern Apprenticeship shows that you've actually done your 4 years.
Okay.
Because you can go out and do a 6-month course and rattle through your NVQ, no bother at all.
Yep.
Just do the courses, boom, that's it, it's gone, and you're away. But to actually show you've gained that experience over those number of years, you need your MA. So, for instance, I started January 94. I went to college in September of 94, and I finished college in the June of 97. That was me done with 3 years at college.
Yep.
After that, they sent me through my SVQ, level 3. But until my time was up in the January of 98, it's actually January 30th, 98, so it was in the February I then got my MA certificate to show that and you need both of those. But a lot of guys just, what's the point in that? Throw it away without knowing the relevance. Then there's been a few jobs, like Namibia was one. I worked in Antarctica. That was another place where they wanted both certificates, and then the college as well asked for both certificates. And it's amazing the amount of people who don't have either one or any at all certificates. They've just not kept them.
Yeah. How do we change that? Is that like from an insurance perspective to the homeowner to say if you've got a duty, Well, the water regulations, Scottish water bylaws, as we class them, they put the joint responsibility on the homeowner and the plumber, because a lot of folk will go, oh, what does the homeowner know? The homeowner should have an idea of what's going, and that covers everything. And I mean, my late friend Tony Brunton, who is well known in the gas community, he's actually one of the guys who wrote the gas safety laws. Tony died a couple of years ago, but Tony actually got someone off on a gas safe one because the guy had fitted the boiler fine. But then Tony went back to gas safe and went, what you should have done though was not just check whether he was qualified, it's whether the householder actually, because the onus is on the householder as well. So when they get the gas safe card, they need to go, all right, that's fine. Because on the back of the gas safe card, a lot of folk go, oh, you're gas safe registered. But on the back, it's actually got what it is. Like CCN1 is your core gas skills. You then get CENWAT, which is essential heating water, so boilers. You've got a separate one for cookers. You've got a separate one for fires. You've got a separate one for LPG. So if you're getting them to do anything, you need to actually check the back of their card to see they're qualified. A driving license. And
You know, it's exactly like a driving license. So, I got him to drive a bus. He's only got a car on his driving license though. Oh, right. So the onus is on the water regulations and Scottish water bylaws. Put the onus on both of them. Put them on the householder and on the plumber, because we're starting to see a lot of stuff. Toilets, you're getting a lot of these toilets that have got the wee wash hand basin built into the top of them. And it's a water saving thing. But Scottish water don't allow you to fit them, because we get 5 fluid categories, everything from fresh water to hot water, right the way up to effluent level 5. And Scottish water say, well, you've got 4 fluid categories in that one. You've got raw sewage, which is number 5. You've got hot and cold water, 1 and 2. You know, you've got the soap, which is, I think it's 3 or 4 for, I think it's 3 soapy water's like 3. So you've got all but 1 fluid category in that one unit. They said that's no different to taking a bowl, taking a drink out of it, having a dump in it, giving it a rinse out, and taking a drink out of it again. You know, the potential for cross contamination in that is astronomical. But a lot of folk don't know. And a lot of plumbers, you know, they've served their time, they've got their tickets, and there are a lot of them just never go back to college. And I mean ever go back to college to do anything. And I think
the electrical world's going the same way in a way. So I'm just thinking this now. We went for, we'll say we, it was no one else's fault apart from my own. I went for a power cable before at my house, my own job as well, literally on the weekend. And it was during the week. I went for it anyway. But then I didn't know. I rung up my electrician and said, "Can you come and fix this?" He said, "Where is it?" I said, "It's outside the house in the drive." He went, "What, the feed coming in?" I was like, "Yeah." He went, "Not me, mate." He said, "That's a UKPN job." I went, "Oh fuck, this sounds pricey." Like, what can I do? And then I spoke to another mate. He said, "Well, you can go around it. There's 2 ways. You can get UKPN to do it the right way, or for a little bit cheap, you can get someone to come in who will just bodge up for you." But then and he'll take the money for that and disappear without leaving his name behind. But then at the same, collectively thought, but if it goes really wrong, I've asked him to come in and do it, and then I'm going to get the book thrown at me, and so that little bit of understanding. But imagine the amount of people, and they're right, the amount of people I know. So just get someone else to come in, it'll just do it for 50 quid, 100 quid for a quick bullet joint thing, and then you're away.
That's it, done.
Even if he fries in the hole, then I've asked him to come here, and you know what I mean? Is it kind of down to me?
Well, that's you have got that double onus, but I mean, I used to do the complaints handling for the Plumbing Employment Federation in Scotland, SNPF. Just gave that up a couple of weeks ago, actually.
Oh, okay, I was going to say that, SNPF.
And, but, you know, a lot of their complaints, well, I say a lot of their complaints, they only get 2 or 3 complaints a year. And you tend to find that there's a misunderstanding in a lot of cases between what has to be investigated and what is, you know, because you'll get, somebody's overcharged us. But you agreed to that price. And I've had that before. I did a job a few years back and I quoted the lady. And to be honest, I didn't want the job. It was a mucky job. I'm not wanting that, you know. It was a pipe that had been put in, again, a waste pipe. It was run 1.5 inch from a wash and from a kitchen sink. And it had been run about 7 or 8 metres, 1.5 inch. And it was completely and utterly blocked up with fat.
Yeah.
And, can you replace that with the right size of pipe? Did it? And I'm like, who wants to do that? You know what I mean? Nobody really. So I gave her a silly price. And I went, like, get another price because I will be more than what you should be paying, you know. Oh no, I'll just get you to do it, blah, blah. You know, so that's fine. You then, after the job I'd done the job about a month, 6 weeks and that later, I did the job.
Yeah.
And it was a fairly easy job. And I didn't charge as much because I thought this was going to take me a lot longer than it actually did.
Mm-hmm.
And I still had, our son phoned up about a week later. He'd actually phoned the merchant. How much was that money? How much was the materials? And the merchant said, well, we can't discuss that with you. That's down to you and the plumber.
Yeah.
And I never got the phone call, but the merchant phoned to give me the heads up. You know, this guy's wondering about how much your materials were. And I was like, well, if he phones me, I can tell him why. And I could also say to him, well, I gave your mother 6 weeks to get another price. And I did explain to her, and I even put it in the quotation, you know, this, you know, I have overpriced.
Yeah.
On the basis that something might go wrong or I might hit on something, but the job went fine. So I'd taken something like 25% off the finished cost.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't take that on board when they're doing that kind of thing.
We don't see it a lot. It's the groundworks. Yeah, it's absolutely, because there is something we can put on. I spoke to tender trainers, Eve Lamix and Ricky, her husband, about it, and he said there's a clause you can put in there that we can pull out. It's sort of the Breaking Ground laws, Breaking Ground Act or something like that, where you can literally say that if you come across something, you've got a right to go back to the client and say, we've come across this. It's something. Yeah. It's
something my friend talks about quite often as well. My friend Ross works for his brother. I don't know if I can name names. You might want to edit this bit out, but he works for 5 Star Windows and Conservatories.
Yeah.
They've got bases in Worcester and Kidderminster. And when Ross is doing a survey, because he surveys for orangeries and conservatories and stuff like that. And he's like, you know yourself, Jimmy, he said, you could hit on anything. You could hit on a drain. You could hit on the mains. Like you say, you could hit on the electrical thing.
Yeah.
And you've got to kind of be realistic when you're quoting that's there. And I've seen drainage 6 inches under the ground.
Yeah.
At times.
But the cable that I hit outside my own house, my house on a hill, and at the house, it's 1 point, the power comes in 1.2 meters down from the ground level of the house. But where I'm on the hill, at the footpath level, at the bottom of the drive, the main power coming in is level. So by the time it comes down, it was literally only about 200 mil fucking down.
Aye.
I was like, no wonder. So I put a very well placed letter back to him saying I'm concerned for the welfare of my whole village, because all my next door neighbours, they're out there planting flowers every day with their little forks in the ground and all sorts. So I said that I'm more than happy to settle this bill, but I'm concerned that my whole village is in danger. They didn't come back. At all.
So did you still have to pay the bill then? No,
never come back. Yeah, never come back. So I just said to him, I wanted to do a whole survey and relocate this cable across the whole village before we go in, because I think there's a bit more to this than my fault of just going 200 mil down. But an unmarked cable. It was an old one. But touch wood. Hopefully they don't watch this podcast. I've stayed quiet. But that is kind of from my head. I was like, there is a serious danger there for them people to do it. But it comes in at that level. If you, like you say, you find it. I worked another one, London Gateway, DP World. Or the ships come in, a big container shipyard, basically, with a container now, one of the biggest in the country. It was growing and growing. But it was an old Shell oil refinery there. And we were digging, putting in a massive base, a massive septic tank, actually, quite far down. It was about 6-7 metres, a huge fucking open in the ground. And we come across an old pipe. I went, that's a fucking old proper pipe, that. And it was flat as well. So I said, that's flat because it's big. You know what I mean? It goes round. You know what I mean? And I was like, that's not just a flat plate. They just started going out and out. I was like, it's starting to champ around. I went, this is fucking big, whatever this is. And they was, no, it's just a metal plate. We'll pull it out with the machine. I was like, and then we got and literally someone come back to us in the middle management levels and literally said, "Yeah, just pull it out, lads. Just pull it out. It's not used anymore." I said, "Well, it might not be used, but it doesn't mean it hasn't got however many miles of oil in there."
What you've got to worry about is when your mate starts walking along it and you can see him starting to disappear over the horizon.
Yeah,
maybe it is a pipe. You know?
But it was literally that. Someone did say, "We can, it's not in use anymore. We can just pull it out." But they didn't factor in the fact, but it doesn't mean it's not full up with oil still. And we're right next to the Thames here and all. Like, this is, you imagine it, can't you? And so
that's Environment Agency right away there.
Yeah, and it was like, we only needed to go another fucking 500-600 mil down or something. It was like, can we not just speak to the engineers about just a quick redesign on what this is? And they did in the end. But there was still, it always come back and said, who was the prick who said just to fucking pull it out? And I was like, that was for Buckingham's, and we all know where they are now. So that just that goes to show. But yeah, that was an interesting one. But you could see that there was a few signs put on that job about the way that these companies kind of go about things and then disappear. Are you seeing a lot up in Scotland in terms of companies going? Over 4,000 there was last year. Apparently the numbers are over.
You're getting what you're starting to find is, it's like I was saying before, you're getting bigger facilities management companies coming in.
Yeah.
We can do everything. And in a lot of cases they can, but I mean, we lost Stuart Milne recently as well. They've kind of gone under. And the company I served my time with, they went through Stuart Milne. Stuart Milne himself, he was the chairman, I think he was the chairman or something of Aberdeen Football Club. You know, he'd got in quite big.
Yeah.
But I think it's just difficult trading conditions and stuff. But I mean, what we're finding is, and I mean, it's coming more and more, is we're getting house builders throwing houses up. And I mean, Keir Starmer's talking about this, you know, we want X amount. And somebody said it's something like 1,000 houses a day is what he's, and you're thinking, no one with any sense is thinking along those lines. Yeah. And
it's like Donald Trump comments, isn't it? It's literally on the same level. Just drink the bleach.
You'll be fine, honestly. Look at me. I'm fine. But, you know, that's a career politician coming in with that view. And I mean, I used to say it. I mean, Eric Pickles famously during the Grenfell inquiry.
I want to come on to this,
he mixed up the number of dead between Hillsborough and
96,
and the amount of it.
Yeah.
And he then said to them, "Oh, can you hurry this up? Because I'm a busy man. I've got a lot on." And like, all right. And then, but there was little things like Robert Jenrick, when he was the housing minister, he was talking about stuff, and I thought, who is this Robert Jenrick? I never heard him, but he's a corporate lawyer.
Yeah.
He is a corporate lawyer. And I'm thinking, how can you be on a housing estate talking about this when your background is corporate law?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. And I mean, it's something that Clive Holland and I have discussed on Fixed Radio, is these people are career politicians who, you know, when it suits their agenda, they'll be onto it. And it's something I raised. I got Plumber of the Year 2022 from On the Tools.
Yes.
For raising things like the fact that, well, my mate Bob, his brother got killed on a site, and it was one of those ones you were like, sorry.
Yes, go.
Sorry, Bob was his nephew. John's his brother. John's brother got killed on a site, and I say killed. He had a heart attack, and John had run a campaign to try and get defibrillator units fitted, but he didn't get enough signatures. He only got like 66,000. Well, he got 66,000 signatures, but you need 100,000
6 figures
before it's even discussed in Parliament. Yeah. And I said the problem you get with that is it can be discussed at 11:30 on a Friday in Parliament with 3 or 4 MPs, and you know, Rees Mogg, snoring in the corner, lying on the benches, snoring. It needs. So I'd actually.
Well, look at Schwab with the tool theft thing. Their first one, the petition went really well. It was getting there, and then they pulled government, didn't they? It just disappeared.
Well, that's it. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I was told at the time is, if this goes to a point where the government gets changed, the slate gets wiped clean again.
Yeah.
And I mean, it got to that point where, you know, John had said, I've got 66,000 signatures, but I've not got the required 100,000. And I spoke to Heating, Venting and Plumbing magazine, so they ran an article on it. There was a bit on the tools about
clearly
it.
Something there, isn't there?
Yeah, and they started actually doing it. And we've got FES, Fourth Electrical Services, up in Stirling. They're a multinational company now. I spoke to Jason Cross, one of their directors, because they'd put up a post on LinkedIn, quite innocently, we're doing this for health and safety and blah, blah, blah. And I went, what are you doing about defibrillators? And they put something up a couple of weeks later, and I said, I'm still not seeing any defibrillators here. You've got hard hats, you've got high-vis vests, you've got this, you've got that.
Yep.
And give him his due. The company I shared my time with, we were quite close with FES going, moving up. So I knew the Fletcher family. And Jason had actually got in touch and went, without being too harsh, what's your problem? Because you've commented on a couple of things now. And he was very good about it. He says, what's your thinking? And I said, I'm wondering why you're not putting defib units on site. I said, you look at HS2, they'd had two deaths of two heart attack deaths at that time.
Yeah, I remember them.
And I said, there was no mention of a defib unit in any of these reports. I says, and I'm just wondering if you're doing it. And I'd actually spoken to Alistair Gill, who was the health and safety. He's the health and safety lead at Morrison's up in Inverness, and he said, we do it. We actually put a defib unit onto sites, and we register it with the NHS, and then at the end of the job, we donate it to the build.
Yep.
And he said, we can buy these things for £700-800.
Yep.
He says, they're tax deductible, they're health and safety, blah, blah, blah. He says, and it looks great for things like we're in considered constructor scheme.
Yep.
He said, for that kind of thing, it looks brilliant. He says, the visuals on it are brilliant, and this is what I put over.
But it's visually, you can visually see it.
Aye. Yeah. So Jason was like, leave it with me. I'm not promising anything, because he said our problem is we're not main contractors. A lot of the time we're just subcontractors.
Yep.
But give him his due. A few weeks later, just before Christmas 2023, he'd put up a big post. We've started putting out defib units. Yeah. So little things like that, and it makes a difference. It makes a massive difference 100%. To people, and. That's something they've kept up. And when I spoke to Morrison's about it, I said, what are you doing about it? And that's when Alistair Gill said, we already do this, Jimmy. So that was fine. We had a good chat about it. And but it was that, and there was also the fact that one of the big things that I pushed, and that's one of the big reasons I got on the tools as well, is we sell boilers to anyone. And I mean anyone. Mm-hmm. You can walk in tomorrow, buy a boiler, fit it in your house, not tell anyone, and no one's any the wiser. Then when the house blows up, the HSE investigate. Mm-hmm. And the HSE, they make it like they're the good guys in this, but they're not. Yeah. And neither is GasSafe, because it is guilt by omission. They know it's happening, because if you
sell a knife to a kid.
Aye, exactly. And they know there's a big crime happening here. And if you trawl through the HSE press releases, I found that 80% of their gas prosecutions was illegal boiler sales.
Really? Yeah.
And I said, well, why don't you stop it and just say, if you want to buy a boiler, I want to see your GasSafe card. And I'd been on Fix, and it was Andy Cam and Todd Glister had said, you could put a QR code on the boiler. Then when the person picks it up, you say, you go in, right? Steve goes in, right? I want to buy a boiler, Jimmy. Right, okay. I'll look on GasSafe. Right, can I get your GasSafe number? And if you're in that merchant enough times, they know who you are. They know what your number is. They know you're GasSafe registered.
Yep.
And they can go, right, okay, that's you. We'll put your number down next to that boiler. GasSafe have already got the register in place, so it wouldn't take much for them to change it.
Yeah.
And they just choose not to. And I don't know why. I'd spoken to the HSE, Steve Critchlow. Steve Critchlow says, we can't lobby Parliament for change. And when this was going on, we had, someone said, it would require a change in the law. And I said, well, change the law. Change it. Because at that time, it was Christmas 2021, someone climbed over it was Christmas 2021, someone climbed into Windsor with a crossbow.
Okay.
And I think they were trying to shoot the Queen or something like that with a crossbow. And everyone's like, it's really easy to buy a crossbow. We need to change the law. And I said, it's exactly the same argument as you're having with me as to why you can't change the law for gas. And I mean,
the important person hasn't been affected yet, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah,
and I mean, we see it in that you get people putting stuff in, and it's like you say, when it affects a certain person, they will look to change the law. But at the moment, nothing.
Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure it's right. Not that we're pro or for it or get into any of that shit. But Palestine, now the two guys have gone into the Bryce Norton last week. And the RAF
painted up there.
Yeah. As of today, coming the 30th of June, it is it's a crime to support Palestine in the public place or be something like that, promoting the Palestinian, whatever that is. But the law's just changed like that. You say, it's literally, the last couple of days.
If it suits an agenda, they will change the law.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it doesn't. And I've got my suspicions as to why.
Have you? Yeah.
Very much so. But when you have someone like GasSafe, we're the ones to trust. And I often say, I'll comment to them, because they put up the GasSafe logo. You can trust this logo. And I said, but you can't, because if you go on eBay, you can buy a GasSafe t-shirt. You can buy books. You can go into B&Q, whose website is www.DIY. Do it yourself. You can buy leak detection fluid and you can buy gas fittings. And I know you can't go that whole scope, but if you, the discussion I had at Parliament level when I was getting my campaign going was, the guys in Parliament said to me, don't go for everything. Don't try and eat the whole pie. Go for boilers. And if you get boilers passed, then you've started that. Yeah. But when you look through, as I say, you look through it and it's, we prosecuted this guy. And you're like, but it happens. And you do nothing.
It almost takes, is there going to be something like some kind of fucking terrorist attack done in this way? And you know what I mean? So something's going to be hampered with then it will change.
We had one very, very close to it, I would say, a few years ago where the HSE closed the whole school.
Did I? Yeah.
Because the gas hadn't been put in correctly. Jeez. And the local authority was made to remove every single gas pipe in that building, because what you get in a lot of companies is you'll get a majorly big company whereby they've got 40 or 50 plumbers. And they'll all have a go at it, but they've only got 2 or 3 guys who are actually on the gas safe register. Yep. And at the end of that job, they'll go in and they'll sign it off. It's all fine. And the HSE had gone around and went, right, okay, one of the requirements is you have to join the pipe with exactly the same materials. Yep. But you had some, they'd put gas paste around it. You'd had other ones, they'd put hemp paste and Boss White around it. You'd had other ones where they'd put PTFE tape around it. And they went, you've got 3 or 4 different materials joining all this. It has to be the same material, because when it gets pressure tested, that might work at a pressure, whereas that one doesn't. And that was it. But if that had gone, for want of a better word, tits up, that would have been a national scandal. And then I think something would have been done. But the problem, what I was coming back to there is you've got governments who know about these problems, and the tool theft thing is massive, but it's not new.
No.
And I take my hat off. We've got various different plumbers there doing it, saying we need to get this in place. Hats off. I was one of the judges on the tools last year, and we quite rightly gave it to the right person. But the Conservative...
He was qualified.
Yes, he was, very, very qualified. And he's got the strongest handshake I've ever had in my life. And nearly got my fingers broken. But we're having discussions with Conservative ministers about this. But Conservative ministers have been in for 14 years and done nothing to change that.
You're going to get, dare we say it, is it going to take? And you like to think off the bat. You see the Grenfell Netflix program just come out. Yeah, so Pickles, what a man, eh? Fucking hell. Well, he's not been seen recently, is he?
Well, I haven't watched that for the fact that I'd read so much about it. And one of the things I'd read somewhere, it had taken something like 47 hours to isolate the gas supply. Really, and when the gas supply was actually, because they'd lost the isolation valves for the gas.
Gotcha.
They'd been buried at some point. No one knew where they were. It was Cadent Gas that had it. And in the end, they ended up cutting a live gas pipe and putting a balloon down it, inflating the balloon to cut the gas off. And they said when they did that, the fires on the building went out like a candle. That was actually quoted in the inquiry.
Really?
And
the gas was feeding it.
Yeah, the gas was feeding the fire. Because there was lots of open areas where they'd moved the gas pipe from here to here, and they hadn't put the the fire retardant stuff back in place and stuff. So that was tunnels for all the flames to go through. But when they isolated the gas supply, in the actual paperwork it said it went out like a light, pretty much. Boom.
Jeez, because the outside's done by that point, I suppose.
Pretty much,
That's literally it says on there, the cladding. It's like petrol. It goes up like petrol. Doesn't it? Yeah, the petrol kind of material. But
I mean, I'd read a fair bit about it.
Is that not enough to say that we need to register? We need to make sure we regulate the people who buy gas. Well, not saying because Grenfell caused it, but is it going to take a high rise to go up with another scandal? Because if they do the people who make these boilers, do they realise that they will be known as the next Kingspan or Celotex?
It's not just that, it's merchants. Merchants know who they're selling to.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's why I'd said at the time, if you're going to put this in at point of sale.
Yeah.
Because it's easy enough. I could go on and go, right, there's your gas safe number there. And it's a 2-minute check. If you've got your gas safe card and it's in date, you can check it. You can also do an online check. Because if folk go, you can forge a card. You can forge a card. But you couldn't forge the actual registration details on that site. So
you're right.
Conduct that check, and
so the supplier, you're sending, like I say, to a knife or a weapon, you're sending it to your kid, you are the person that you would be the one responsible for it.
But I mean, somebody said, Screwfix. All Screwfix is, you need to ensure this is fitted by a gas safe registered engineer. They don't actually say, we're not selling you. And folks say, you can't bring that law in. But F-Gas, one of the mates, Ian Chapman, he's quite prolific on LinkedIn. He's F-Gas registered, and he'd commented as well, you cannot buy F-Gas spares unless you're F-Gas registered. So how can you buy can you buy boilers, cookers, fires? And someone says you'll never stop it. No, you never will. I completely understand that.
Yeah.
But to be seen to be doing nothing about it when it has been highlighted at national levels. I mean, my MP actually highlighted it to various Conservative ministers at the time, and they were just told, he was just told at the time, there's no plans to change this.
I think like I say, they have learnt nothing from Grenfell if they don't change it. I don't think.
No.
You think I'm just looking at it back, and all these people were saying this cladding was an issue, this was an issue, this was an issue, and it all still went ahead. You
wonder how many people there are like us who are raising these concerns, but to get them knocked back. And I mean, the big one for me was always the Challenger disaster. It was, that was unforeseen, and it was this and it was that. And then the guy from Morton Thiokol's like, well, we actually had a meeting about it the night before the launch because we knew it shouldn't go ahead because we'd done tests on the seals and they weren't right.
Yeah.
But that was him standing up in a public meeting and saying that.
Fair play.
But we're at the stage whereby you raise it in certain articles. And I mean, I got shot down from the guys on the tools, the public comments going, oh, you can't do that, you can't do that. Why not? And it's because it's so prolific. It's happening all the time. And I mean, unless it actually gets reported to Gas Safe. But I mean, even if it gets reported to Gas Safe, quite a lot of the time it's like a £5,000 fine.
Yeah.
And you go, all you're doing is losing that. And the amount of all you're losing is the money that you've made on that job. That's all you're losing. And I'd read through the HSE press releases on the gas, and there are so many people on a suspended sentence for that offence who then get another suspended sentence for the same offence. And you're going, I always thought if you were on a suspended sentence for something, you got caught doing it again, you were going to jail.
Yeah.
But no, they just get given another suspended sentence. And the HSE are like, oh, that's us, we've done that. And I often say, madness is doing the same thing over and over again, the same way, and expecting a different result.
Yep.
And the only change I can say, really, that I've seen is I'm not seeing as many gas prosecutions going through and making it onto the press releases. And I don't know if that's because I started highlighting it more and more, because every time one came up, I'd go, here's another avoidable case. And if you actually read through the Gas Safety Installation and Use Regulations, which is the law, the piece of paper they use in law for doing it, it's always a 3-1, a 3-3 or a 3-7. Okay. 3-1 is you're not qualified. Yeah. That means you haven't sat an appropriate course, be it BPEC or Logic or whoever's run that course. 3-3 means that you're on the Gas Safe Register, and 3-7 means you're pretending to be on the Gas Safe Register. Yeah. So you'll say, oh, can you fit a boiler for me, Jimmy? Yeah, I can fit a boiler. And then you find out later, well, he's not actually on the Gas Safe Register. That's a 3-7 offence.
Okay. Yep.
And I said, and I'll quite often on LinkedIn put, the next one to appear on the HSE press releases for gas prosecution will be a 3-1, a 3-3, or a 3-7.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not, I'll give £100 to charity.
Yeah.
And in the next 2 months later, you'll get one, oh, this guy was a 3-7 offence because he was pretending. And you think, they're boilers. They're all boilers. And you think, he can't buy that boiler. He's already been prosecuted. We know the people in our areas doing these jobs as well, They're not hidden from anyone.
I think you need someone at the level of government. You need someone in that government who's, maybe it's you, Jimmy, who's literally been working in this industry to know. And maybe that's what this fucking off the bat of Grenfell shit is. People working there haven't realising how fucking dangerous this stuff is, isn't it?
Well, I mean, a lot of these people are politicians. I mean, without being funny, right? Some of them have had a career, they've done their thing, and they've gone in. Some of them are career politicians, though, and that's all they've known. And I mean, no offence to Robert Jenrick, he seems like a nice guy, but he's a corporate lawyer. I wouldn't go in and start telling him how to do corporate law.
Yeah.
And you've got people like Keir Starmer as well. My dad was a toolmaker. Okay, was he? Well done for him. Well done to him. Yeah. He's put his son through university. His son's done very well for himself. Can't knock the guy in the slightest. They wouldn't knock the man. He's passed away anyway. But you're not creating someone who has that experience. It's like you say, you need someone in there who has that relevant level of experience in that field.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't employ me to come and lay your slabs, because I've never laid a slab in my life.
And that, because we see it as well in the space that we're obviously in. I'm like, people in that level at government, these people aren't realising because they don't know the raw message, the raw details of what actually happens, is it? And you'll get the people don't know the complex issues with the gas and all that is, and all this different stuff. And that's why in my head, I'm like, we know we've got to get through to law change, everything we're trying to do. Mm-hmm. But you're like, do we have to go through these people? And you do, you go. But you're just like, just the agenda changes, like you say, the week after, they won't answer the phone again, and then they'll move on.
It's one of those ones as well that you feel like you've explained it to that person, and you've got up to that level. And then it gets passed to someone else, and you have to start at the beginning and explain everything to that person again. Yeah. And you'll get someone saying, I don't get that. And you're like, well, I've put on 27 posts on LinkedIn about it. I've done a video about it. Here's a newspaper article I wrote about it. Here's this, here's that. Oh, I don't know what I didn't know this was a problem. And it's like, the relevant people do know, though. HSE know this happens.
Yeah.
I've spoken to some pretty senior folk in the HSE about it. I've spoken to some pretty senior people in GasSafe about it. I won't name names, but I've mentioned it to them. And they all say, we cannot lobby government for change. It has to be a government-led thing that leads to change. And you go, but we know these problems are here, but no one wants to listen.
And we've getting it, especially in construction as well, isn't it? Who's there representing us?
Aye.
Yeah. That's what we fucking bang our heads against the wall. We're speaking to a few at the moment. The Leadership Council are doing what they're doing, but they are very much... They operate from tier 1 down. So there's this huge pool of...
I mean, I find that I'm in the Worshipful Company of Plumbers in London. And, I mean, we were established in 1365.
Wow.
And we gained the Royal Charter in 1611. And I've started to highlight on my LinkedIn posts with these because...
Yeah,
with
association.
Yeah,
100%.
Because we have a lot of people who aren't necessarily plumbers. And you'll find it in the Worshipful Company of Constructors... Have you ever heard of the Worshipful Company of Constructors?
I have.
Yes.
Don't know what it is, but I've heard of it.
Yes.
The Worshipful. Yeah, I don't know who's in
I mean, you've got the Construction Sports podcast. It's amazing how many normal tradespeople don't know about things like the Worshipful Company of Constructors.
Yeah.
And it's, I might pronounce her name incorrectly here, so you can excuse me. It's Rianne Scott is one of the leaders in the Worshipful Company of Constructors. And I would love to see more plumbers joining things like the Worshipful Company of Plumbers.
Being in touch with them, isn't it? Yeah, 100%.
And I mean, that's why I link it back to things. And we've got plenty of plumbers. And Mel Gums from London, Melville Gums, he was the past president of the Chartered Institute of Plumbing Heating Engineers. Lovely guy, really nice guy. He's a plumber. We've got several members of the Chartered Institute of Plumbing Heating Engineers.
Yeah.
And they're members as well. Yep. Kevin and Jerry, technical manager and the CEO, they're plumbers to trade as well. So they're in there. but you need that link to the industry, and you need them to actually know what is happening in the industry, because we've got some pretty senior people. I mean, one of our liverymen in the Worshipful Company is the Queen, Camilla.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And we've got Dame Fiona Wolf. She's there as well. Former High Court judge. She's held many senior positions. And I feel that they could change these things if they knew they were happening. Yeah. Or if they couldn't, they know the right person that we can actually speak to start implementing some of these changes. And it's things like, the tool theft.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Our podcast went out last week at Schwab. My van got done last Monday. 2 days before. They busted a big hole in the side, the same size as my knuckle. They didn't get in. I've got a Volkswagen, fortunately. Apparently they don't get in as easy into them, what's quite nice to know. But they made a fucking hole in the side. And then once I opened it, the central locking then wouldn't lock on the side door. Fortunately, Luke got in touch with us, LTV, I think it is. I've got to do a big shout out to him soon. But send your van in, Steve. We'll sort it out and tidy it right up for me and put some extra locks on for me as well. It was unbelievable. Literally quickly as well. But bastards.
It's more of an English problem than a Scottish problem.
Is it?
And my hometown of Auchterarder got hit about 3 months ago. There was about 4 or 5 vans got done. And in space,
at the same time, just gone bosh, come through, travelling circus.
Boom, get them all, boom, and everyone's like, oh, that's ridiculous. I said, you've got no idea how bad this problem is in England. Yeah. And I mean, no idea. And it's like you say, Schwab's done it. Pete Booth done it at the time as well. He'd raised the issue. But I don't think folk really take on board how devastating it is. It's not just your van, it's your tools as well.
Yeah, I do. So I work at the back of my van when we do. Fortunately, we've been out on our feet doing this a lot recently, so I haven't been on the tools touch. But I've still got a team of ground workers. We operate out that van. I've got a tool vault in there. It's all bolted down. People can't get into it without doing that. So everything, there's not much in there. Like anything's at any expense. On this one occasion, I had me set of golf clubs in there because the On the Tools golf day was a couple of days before. They could have done me a favour and got rid of them. But I didn't lose nothing. It caused me the inconvenience now to get a higher van whilst that one gets sorted out. And I felt violated. I literally felt fucking hell, like they've been at my van there. And that feeling of this isn't across social media what Schwab's doing. This isn't across this is me now.
Aye.
And I was probably, I'll admit it, a little bit standoffish with it. Not standoffish, but the tool theft thing. I've never been heavily passionate about it because it hadn't affected me. And now it had. I'm like, fuck, I've seen firsthand now. And I got home to my missus as well and said to her about it. And she even said, have you reported it? I said, yeah, I've reported to the police. And I've even been told by everyone in the group. Everyone said that they won't do it. They won't do nothing. There's nothing to do. But report it so they know and it's recorded. So I go online. I just type in Google. What I do, it says report it through the online process. And my missus made a good point. She went, could you imagine actually being a tradesman like you are? In some way, not a trader, I'm a ground worker.
You're still a trade. Don't knock yourself. Don't knock yourself.
But you've gone out there and say your van's full of whacker plates, petrol saws, whatever, all the stuff. We have hammer drills. We can have a van full of expensive stuff. If that is all you've got and you've worked years to accumulate all that stuff, and then I don't know, you're having a bad time. You go home, someone close to you has passed away. You've lost it. You're struggling with money debts or whatever, and then you go out and you see that. And that is, and I think that's why we said to Schwab early doors, I can see the connection with what we're doing. I'm like, that's enough to go, I've had enough. And go, I've had enough of this.
It was one of those ones, though, that with Schwab, it's like when we came, it was myself and Dan Tempest that were judging the category. And we'd kind of...
because Schwab won it, didn't he? So
he won it.
He won it. The gas, I'm just thinking he's a tool man. The tool theft guy is obviously the gas expert.
We'd been comparing notes, and we'd been sent through the stuff by On the Tools to assess, and we'd got all the candidates. And there was some, the first one I thought, God, this guy's won it. And then I thought, right, let's get a look. And I got down, and I'm like, I actually went down the route of let's see what their workmanship's like as well, Yeah. And when it actually came, Dan and I, because I won 2022, and then Dan won 2023.
Yep. So
we were judging for 2024. And Schwab won. But we'd actually compared notes, and we had exactly, Dan said to me at one point, I think you've been looking at my notes, because we'd pretty much got given the same scores for the same reasons.
Yeah.
But it's not just, are they good tradesmen or others? It's what they're doing to improve our industry, and you can see the work.
Yeah.
you know, and I would never knock someone for trying, because there's so many people who will complain, oh, this isn't right, that's not right. So they'll do something about it.
Yeah.
You know, stand up, get your head above the parapet and actually say it. And I'm sure Dan, Pete, they've all got their detractor. Big Alan Hart, he puts loads of stuff on social media.
Yep.
And he gets some slatings back, and you think, you know,
why would you bother?
Why would you bother? You know, and I've said
yeah.
that to him. I said, I don't know why you. And he's like, he does a lot of it for charity, and he makes a lot of money from his page, and it's all going to charity. And it's like, that's why I do it, you know. And you will. I mean, there was a guy, plumbers. I'd see him doing something, and I'd think, God, that's not the way I'd do that. But then there's a million and one ways, and as a lecturer, you see a million and one ways to do a job.
Yeah.
And they may not be the way you do the job, but
the job gets done.
Not to say the job's not right. And we've got a group going of all the guys who have appeared on Fixed Radio. Have all got a WhatsApp group.
Yep.
And I'd commented at one point, I said, I never put paste on my fittings when I'm doing them. I just put them together and tighten them up, compression couplings. And the amount of, Jimmy, schoolboy error, this schoolboy error, I actually started doing it.
Yeah.
I just thought, you know, my argument with that was always, you know, they never go, there's your compression fittings and there's the paste that you'll need for them as well. Because you should just be able to tighten them. So I actually started putting paste around from the comments I got back. You're bringing it.
Pressured.
And it wasn't really it was more of a kind of helpful dig. And I thought, I'd take that on board. But it's easy to slate these guys on social media for doing certain things or not doing it the way you would do it, you know. But as part of when I was doing the complaints handling for SNPF, I never saw a job but I would have done it that way. But it's not to say that job was wrong.
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to step back and go, right, okay. You know, somebody will say, you'd be laying a shower tray. You should have done that first and that first. And somebody else will say, no, I'd have done it that way. What are you doing it that way for? There's nothing to say any way is wrong. Well, it's just not your way.
That level of putting yourself out on social media is commendable, isn't it?
Definitely. Anybody that's put themselves over on social media, I take my hat off to them. I mean, you've got your rogues like Big Andy Cam. You know, Andy's a great guy as well. And I mean, Andy will be open with you. He's very friendly. I always say one of the best things I've got on my phone is the numbers for other plumbers. Because you don't know everything. And I've had it before where I went to do something, I don't know what I'm doing with this. And I always say to my apprentices, if you don't know, ask somebody.
100%.
Because if they've not done it, they've got somebody else who's done it before, and they know, and they'll go, I would have done it this way, or you could have done that. And
Rob Candy is the head of the Scaffold Association, one of the two, and the NSSC it was. And he always said to me, I always remember it, when he started up, I said, how did you get that, like all these scaffolders in the same room? Because these are all not the politest bunch, we say. And he said, yes, the funny thing is they all fucking hate each other. They all live. And then a lot of them will be in the same area and they'll hate them because they're a mile away, they're competitors. He said, we got them, a few of them into the room and they realised they're not actually competing against each other. They've got their own areas, doing their own thing in different ways. They got their own clients. So there is that potential client, but a lot of them could be a lot bigger than they didn't realise than the other one was. So he's never going to be able to price a job the same because the overheads and all this stuff. And he then realised they all got together. And the people in the room went, "Oh fuck! Actually, our problems. You're having the same problems, and you're having the same problems." And all these people who thought they were just going to punch each other's lights in. I think over the years, a few of them have.
I've seen that.
But at the same time, they realised, oh, actually, if we do come together, and it's like you say, campaigning for change and changing laws, you need to come together. Otherwise, this shit won't change.
You'll always get your professional detractors who'll say this, you know. And one of the big things I always got back on the gas boilers was the amount of sparkies coming. You can buy a consumer unit.
Yeah.
Well, start your own campaign and start highlighting it.
Yeah.
Don't piggyback on someone else's thing and say, we've got the same problem. If you have that problem, highlight it. And Jamie Halcrow Johnson, one of the members of the Scottish Parliament, he actually tried to get protected status for electricians.
Yeah.
So you could not class yourself as an electrician unless you had an electrical qualification. Yeah. And it died a death in the Scottish Parliament.
It sounds mad that you just claim a licence. A licence.
It's a licence. I know a lot of folks say,
you can't work a fucking door without a licence.
Qualification. Exactly. You can't.
Simple as that.
But I mean, a lot of folks say, your qualifications don't mean anything. You know, and I say, well, if someone comes to you, right, to drive your kids to school, right, and they've got a driving licence, and someone else doesn't, but he's a really good driver, who are you going to let drive your kids to school?
Yeah.
That's it. That is the way you need to look at that. And I think a lot of them don't look at it that way. They go, I've been doing the job, and we've got grandfather rights, whereas if you've been doing that job for a certain amount of time, you're deemed to be competent or qualified at it. But there's a lot of people who don't have the qualifications. And I was in a focus group quite recently with another famous plumber from Wales, Paul, and we were discussing, and one of the guys on that focus group is actually a retired policeman who started plumbing.
Yeah.
And you're going, yeah, you might be doing it right, but a lot of people go, you just take that pipe and put that pipe to that pipe. But as I'd said earlier, when discussing like some of my friends' job, there is the science side of plumbing. A lot of people don't take. I mean, you say to a lot of people, it's a bar of pressure. What does a bar actually equalise? What does that mean? A bar of pressure.
Yeah.
And folk go, I don't know. And you go, well, you take your water, right, and you drop it from 9.81 metres in height. By the time it gets to the ground, it'll have gained a bar in pressure.
Okay, yep.
So if I've got, we say 10 metres. 10 metres equals a bar.
Yep.
So if I've got my water tower 50 metres up, how much am I going to get? They can then work it out. So you do that with them, because when I start teaching plumbing, I'll say to folk, we've got a reservoir here. Now this reservoir here is 100 metres up from the city, which is here. Mm-hmm. When that drops, that's going to get 10, but we can't have that pressure. So you'll have a series of drop tanks.
Yes,
where it'll drop, drop, and then the last one,
reducing the bar
every time. And then when you drop it down, you've got 3 bar, typically about 3 bar coming off a main. Mm-hmm. But you've got that 3 bar of pressure, and it's getting them to understand that when you drop that water, you're gaining pressure every time. But it's that science side. It's like I was saying earlier as well about fluid categories of water. You've got 5 fluid categories of water. Yeah. The amount of plumbers who maybe learned that at college and have completely forgotten it since is unbelievable. Yeah. And it's when you go back, there are certain qualifications you only have to do once, one being your water bylaws or your water regulations. Your mains pressure hot water cylinders as well. Mm-hmm. They need their own separate set, but you can do that at college and you never have to do that again. Yeah. And we're starting to get into that kind of phase where these things are going to need to be done every 5 years, the same as your gas, the same as your oil, these kind of things. And it's trying to get a level of professionalism within the industry. And I mean, you see it when there's things like I'd attempted to come to installer show a couple of times over the last few years, never managed. And then I came to installer show last year and I realised how big it was and how big it affects the industry. Yeah. And I mean, everyone's there. Everyone's there,
You'd like to think the installer show would get behind it as well, couldn't it?
Well, this is it. Yeah. I mean, there are many things, and I mean, tool theft one, the gas problems the other one, getting more defibs. I mean, there are little things like that every one of us could be doing to make changes and nibbling.
So I even thought that I remember particularly we spoke on we were on the rally about the defibs thing, because we've had it. I was at a golf day and someone collapsed, and it turns out it was only because he was diabetic in the end, but it was an old boy, and everyone thought the first thing they'd done, have we got a defib? They ran in and got one and had it there, and he was okay, so it was fine. But in my head then, I literally was like, we do every 3 or 4 weeks, we've got a golf day in some capacity that we're part of or doing, and a rugby event or any kind of the walks that we do. We're always with people. And in my head, it's a numbers game. There's going to be a time when someone's going to drop and you need to have it there. So I carry around the van all the time. A lot of the walks we do, if we're doing a long distance walk and we're going to be without vans or anything for a bit, I'll stick it in my backpack and it's there, even if there's 5 or 6 of us. But now, in my head now, the day I don't have it in there, it'll be the fucking day I don't.
You need it.
Yeah. So I'm like, but you're right. And I even look at it now in terms of all the plant and machinery, what's out there. Like all these diggers out, especially in the big areas, open fields, and there's not usually a few diggers and dumpers around each other. What would go amiss just to fit a defib into that digger? You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's one of those ones as well and I noticed it more when I was doing industrial stuff. We're not the healthiest bunch.
Yeah.
And you'll get guys who will work a 12-hour shift. They'll then go to the pub. They'll go to Spoons. They'll get their dinner. They'll get a few pints and they'll go home. And that's their life. That is their life.
Yeah.
And then if something like that does happen, it's like, well, how did you mitigate that? What did you have? Because I went on an industrial site years ago, many, many years ago, and in the induction, I was the only one who could speak English. And we had, the guy put the video on and he left.
Yeah.
And he then came back, oh, that's it, right. Give me your CSCS cards, photocopied them all, and we all went off.
Classic, yeah.
And it wasn't until the guy had wandered off, I was like, well, my CSCS card's out of date. Oh, right, you better go and sit it again. I said, well, I've booked it for tomorrow. All right, that's fine. But on that job, I was put in charge of health and safety. And I did a check, and a third of the CSCS cards were out of date.
Yeah.
But the site agent's just taking them all, putting them all on the photocopier, doing a photocopy. Oh, we've got everybody's CSCS cards. Off you go. You're all safe to work on the site. We've put that video out in English, but you've got that many Eastern European guys on site now doing the job as well. And I'd said to one of them at the one point, I said, well, no being funny, they can't understand what we're saying. Mm-hmm. You know, they don't speak English with the best will in the world. And I said to one of them, we're putting up sheets of plasterboard, I said, can I go under there? Yeah, it's okay. And I said, if that falls and hits me though, yeah, it's okay. And I thought, he's not got a clue what I'm saying. No. That's not to detract from the fact he's over here working. No problem with that at all. Or with, you need that common ground that you can be able to speak that level of understanding, and you often find it's just not there.
Going back on the defibrillator one, I'm just not strict. I'm just generally thinking myself. I don't actually know the answer. Mm-hmm. If someone has a heart attack at work, is that record? If someone has a heart attack at a construction site, is that recorded as a death in construction?
Probably. You look at the two from the HS2 site. Those were both, heart attack on site, and they were recorded with the HSE. Yeah, but I probably would come back as that, but it's one of those ones that, if you'd had that on there, and it's not to say...
it's not construction's fault.
It's not construction's fault, but it's one of those ones as well that you're not assured that a defib unit will save someone, but you're giving them a chance that they perhaps don't have.
In my head, what I'm thinking out, the HSE are going to have this. Surely have the figures on how many people died in the workplace.
Whoa, stop. Yeah, they've got the amount of that's another sticky subject. Yeah. But
the suicide thing's fucking, they haven't got a clue.
They've not got a clue about suicide, and they've not got a clue about, I'd done something in the Heating, Venting and Plumbing magazine a few years back, and I'd done an article for Alcohol Change UK as well, and the top 10 of people caught drink driving in the UK were all from construction.
Well, yeah.
And if you check the HSE death stats, they'd never record anyone under the influence of drugs or under the influence of alcohol. Never.
Really?
Yeah, and you go, how can it be that the police are telling us the top 10 drink drivers in the country are all off a building site? But what, if you're reading between the lines here, they're all sober on a building site between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. roughly, if you're calling that your working day. That's what you're saying to me. Yeah. But then all these people getting caught are all, plumbers were the top. Yeah. But it was joiners, ground workers, roofers. They were all these are all the top 10 guys getting caught, and folk are like, oh, but the policeman did it. I'm going, whoa. I'm going by what the police say. And the police prosecute 85,000 people a year for drink driving. 282 people a day get caught drink driving in this country. Really, yeah. And the majority of them are from a construction site. Yeah. And I'll say, well, how many of them cause an accident, but it's never recorded? How many? Because they say, the biggest cause is a fall from height. Was it because he was drunk? Or, he got killed, struck by a moving vehicle. Okay, he was struck by a moving vehicle. Did you do a breath test on the guy who was driving that vehicle? Yep. Did you get a blood sample from the guy that he hit? That's the kind of, but they don't want to go into that. They go, that's the police. And as the HSE said to me when I raised that, they said, well, we could be 2 or 3 days before we get to a site to investigate what happened. It's like, yeah, but you don't even ask for the records of their testing procedures. That's just never discussed because they know the extent of the problem. Yeah. And I mean,
there's so much overlooked.
There is so much overlooked. I mean, someone had put on LinkedIn recently about the condition of welfare sites, and somebody, welfare's brilliant on sites these days. And I'm like, if you read the HSE press releases, if you actually go on a site and you see some of the carnage in some of these toilets,
Yeah.
And, you know, you're actually in these canteens and things like that. Do you know what I mean? There's the...
Yeah. You'd have the one pristine canteen. I noticed we got loads of those jobs. The one canteen, the picture postcard one, is the nearest one of the main offices. Yeah, and everything else off of that. And that had the fancy coffee machine. That's when the visitors come to that one.
I often say you can always tell, and I've been on a few sites where they've got a canteen and a welfare facility for the office staff, and downstairs they've got one. Just shows for job logs.
Yeah.
And the condition in both is shockingly different.
It's literally the hierarchy of life and the way you're looked at in every way.
And I mean, I often say you get the health and safety guys going on to site, and they don't want to rock the boat because they've got a company car and they've got 80 grand a year, and they've got this, that, and the next thing. So they're not going to start raising things like, you know, we've got a lot of guys getting hit by vehicles or this or that. Yeah. I mean, when you actually look at the death stats, we had last year over double the amount of people getting killed as to the next closest industry. I think the next closest industry was fishery and farming. Yeah, farming, agriculture. And it was like, I'm sure it was roughly, I'm sure it's 51 deaths. And I'm like, that's a death a week.
Yeah.
Now, if you're at your work and someone every week was getting killed, you'd be like, I'm not working.
It's normally 37, 38, around the 40 mark normally. But
I mean, there was something like, I'm sure it was about 68 members of the public were killed by work activities. And somebody said, what's that? I said, that's somebody walking past with their pram and somebody drops a block off the scaffold and it hits the pram. Yeah. You know, there was a girl round by us. It made the papers, and what had actually happened was the lorry had come, I think it was one of the merchants' lorries had come round the corner, and it's got the stabilising legs had come out and actually hit her. The stabilising leg come out and hit her when she was walking on the pavement. Yeah. And I need to change the law, And I said, you will never get a law change for that, because that is one random act that has happened. Yeah. And, you know, I'm sure her family witnessed it. It'd be a horrific thing to witness, but it is one case. It's not happening every week. And that's when you go back to other things that are happening weekly and going, but you're doing nothing about these things.
There's nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I'll go back to the guilt by omission. Yeah. You know it's happening, but you're doing nothing about it.
I got killed by a machine. I think telehandler, I don't know what it was, half hour from here, 6 weeks ago. Not one person's mentioned it online. It's not got out. The clients have hold information. I'll tell you more off the camera, because we use it as a case study at the moment of why this is wrong. So they've been killed by a machine. No one knows anything about that. But there's people around this whole country working around this same machine, this brand of machine. Underneath it, there's a problem gone wrong with the hydraulics, killed the guy. Why aren't we alerting all these drivers of these machines, and the people who are doing the job, what that person was, to this is a fucking potential flaw, may have been a random issue, may not have, but in the meantime, just check your machines, safety, and work properly. I mean, but there's nothing out there to alert people on that.
There was a guy, I'm sure it's James Rokie, his name was, killed on a building site a few years back. And his mum and dad tried getting answers from the HSE. Silence.
I think he was local to us. I think he sent this over to us. He's a South End lad, I think.
Was he?
Yeah.
And I mean, his mum and dad are like, we want answers. I'm sure he was hit by a vehicle or something.
But that might have been you sent to me originally. You might have sent to me originally. And then I thought, that's around the corner from us. I'm pretty sure it's South End way.
And
I'm going to go back on that one.
You look at it and you go, that's not as random as you would like to think. When you look at how many people are killed, struck by a moving vehicle, that's just one of a figure.
But the process of getting them people to that job to act in that way, they're all the same process, isn't it? There's something going wrong there, isn't it? The way that we're putting these people to work, isn't it?
Aye.
Yeah.
I mean, he shouldn't have been on site. He was too young. But I was on site, qualified on site as a plumber when I was 21 years old.
Yeah.
And I've got mates who were qualified when they were 20.
You know, all the shit you see, and the traumas we try and study. There's a real thing about PTSD in construction. I always shout it. I said, we all seen shit we can't unsee, or we don't want to see. You know what I mean? Even from the little my son, my boss, get his hand whacked. We was whacking a window in the window fixing the first year of school, and there's Simeon, her Bulgarian lad. He's literally smashing it, let it go, and he's a strong boy anyway. And the gaffers, there's a big steel column that we're fitting it to, and you could go around the outside of it still, and the gaffer's on the other side, just not realising, put his hand round to pull this fucking window in, and as he's done it, he's got the whacker, and the thing just went poof, it's like a fucking strawberry, and then he's just like, and then straight to hospital. But we see it wasn't, that don't trigger me too much. A few things do, but that can do people in, can't it? Or just a near miss will do someone in.
I've got a friend who he he's very conscious of the fact that I think he's lost about that much of his finger.
Yeah.
The middle finger. It's just kind of off.
Yeah.
And you're looking at it going, yeah, who hasn't? You know, one of my mates was playing in wood one day and just his fingers now make a perfect kind of line right down there because the tips just went. Yeah. My other mate lost his thumb, but he managed to catch it because he said he was going through sort of jump forward and and he said, I put my hand on it. Alec Lamb, his name is, and Alex says, I'm like, my finger, I have my thumb, I've got my thumb. And he went to see the other boy, he went, I've nicked my thumb here, but I've got a hold of it. Can we get to the hospital? So he says, mate got to the hospital. He says, and he said to the doctor, I've nicked my thumb with the saw, and the blood was everywhere. He says, I've pushed the tip on. You know, can you get a look at it? And the doctor says, you're going to let me see it. And he said, I turned around, my mate was there. He says, I took my hand away, and my mate's going, it's not there. He said, I honestly thought I had it. He said, we found it a couple of days later in the shavings, but just the top of his thumb just gone. He said, I don't know if it was phantom limb or what. He said, but I was convinced I had it. He goes, I'm going, I've got it. You've done that. It's not there. And he was like, oh no.
That phantom limb thing's a fucking thing. I get it. I had fucking, of all things, I used to shit into a bag for 2 years. I had an ileostomy bag strapped to me. And my intestine come out my stomach for 2 years on that. And that, I get phantom from that overnight because I used to have a bag attached to it, shit into. And when that filled up, you could feel it filling up, but it wasn't like you felt that you're having a poo. It was literally like the bag would move, so it'd press against you or tickle you. And I have more, if I sleep overnight, sometimes I'll go, I think I'll empty it. And I'll go, I had it for fucking 12 years. But I feel like a tickle or something there that does it. And it the phantom thing. So it's not a limb, I know that, but it kind of is, it's an organ, I suppose. Yeah. But it's that same thing. It goes, oh, fuck. And I wake up and go, oh, fuck, I hope I ain't split in the bed.
No.
And I wake up going, how the hell did this happen?
It's a real concern. I know my friend's sister, she had one fitted, and she was, her biggest concern was the smell.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, I don't want a smell coming off it, you know. And,
I've had some tough stuff, I think, in my life. Yeah, but that is.
I wouldn't have fancied that, I'll tell you.
No, it's a tough gig, that one. That's definitely. But the go and touch on the mental health stuff. I know you've come in over the years. We mentioned the suicide stuff, and all. You've had your fucking.
I mean, I think we've
all fair share is not the word, but
but I think we've all had our demons.
Yeah,
and I mean, it's like you say, if you got something like your tools get nicked one day, something else happens another day, something else happens another day, it mounts up.
Yeah,
and I mean. I've dealt with my fair share over the past few years as well, where you just go to yourself, you know, I said to my partner at one point, I was at that point of going, just stop kicking me, please, just stop kicking me. Because one person's maybe on at you for something, but then unbeknown to them, someone else is doing something, it's someone else. But no one seems to have an overriding picture of what's happening. And I think that's where a lot of guys start struggling. And
great point. Yeah.
We lost my cousin's son just before Christmas, and to suicide.
A construction worker,
and he was oil, but you don't know what's happening. I mean, he had. I think he had many a great guy. I'd only met him 4 or 5 times because he's my cousin's son. But I mean, my cousin's in his 60s, and his son was going on 40. But I think it was a collection of many little things that had eventually got into him, and he just went, you know, can't go. And I think that's one of the big problems is that, and I mean, I've highlighted it to you as well, there is not the mental health. We talk about mental health like it's something that we do, and it really isn't. I mean, when you look at things like the PRI, I sent you the article on the Perth Royal Infirmary, they had 3 deaths. I know the PRI, sorry, the Murray Royal Tayside Health Board. They had 3 female deaths. Now, you would think that in a psychiatric unit, that would be the last place you would be able to kill yourself, and that's what's happening. And I mean, there was a guy in Aberdeen who clearly had issues, you know, and you know he was getting help, but it had gotten too much for him as well. And too many people just throw out a phone number. There's a phone number. If you're struggling, there's Samaritans, because they don't know how to deal with it. They've got no facilities for physically dealing with it. No. And I mean, one of my friends, he'd been struggling at his work. He'd got in touch with them and they gave him a number, but the number was out of date. And he'd phoned, oh no, we don't offer that service now. He was struggling, you know, and you just go.
I had someone very close to me that she said financially knackered, marriage has fell apart, can't see his boy, anymore. Everything's gone against him. He's completely skint, struggling. Jobs up the wall. I need a ring. Spoke the helpline, put him in touch with Mind, and then I think he got talking to them. They said, "Yeah, here's a counselling service you can speak to. It's 120 quid a session or something." He went, "I've got no money. This is why I'm ringing you guys. I've got no money. I'm broke." And that's where,
The difference is I was in the retained fire service, and they had counselling. So if you'd seen something, you got counselling for it. Yeah. You know, because I mean, you're dealing with house fires, you're dealing with RTCs. Yeah. You know, Tom Easter over here in Halstead, he's in the retained service as well. They have a proper service.
I need to get him on this. Yeah, I'm going to get in touch with you.
It's one of those ones that you think about it and you go, "What good counselling does you the world of good."
Yeah.
Actually speaking to someone. And
professionals,
when I spoke to the counsellor about the issues I was having at the time, I said to her at the last session, "I don't even know your name." And she said, "Do you want to know?" And I went, "No, it's inconsequential, really. I just needed someone who would listen to my problems without being judgmental." And I mean, you can speak to your mates and stuff, you know. And I said, you know, I'd spoken to one of my mates, and I'd found out through one of my mates that he'd spoken to one of my other mates. And I was like, Jesus, I feel like everyone's talking about me. And my partner said, but they're your friends. They will, they're trying to support you. And there is that level, you know. And I fell out with someone because I was going through a tough time back in 2012. Same thing, you know, business wasn't going great. Relationship wasn't going great. And it was just like, oh God. And one of my friends' dads, he's a very successful businessman. And I met him on the street one day. He went, how is things? How are you doing? And I went, oh, you're just another fucking person talking about it. He went, no, Jimmy, we're just worried. And I went, I'd kind of fallen out with him about it. And I went back to him later and I went, like, I apologise, you know, because I've got a lot on and did it. And he went, right, no, that's fine. But I just don't think there is the mental health help there that people actually need. Yeah. And that's not just in construction, that is across the board.
Yeah.
A lot of people will throw you a number, they'll say, oh, we understand. And you go, but do you really? You know, and I had it.
The last thing you want when you're going shit is someone go, oh, don't worry, I understand, isn't it? In a way, I always find,
I can kind of get, or, you know, the saying I hate is, you know, I'm sorry you feel like that. Yeah, but that is how I feel. Yeah. That is the feelings I have.
I'm not here for your pity.
That's it, you know. And there's little things things happen and people don't always put two and two together. But I mean, I lost my father at the start of the year. Not through, he passed away. Yeah. And it was one of those ones that people hear about it, but they don't know how to react, or they don't know, you know, is there anything I can do, you know. I often say the neighbour said, oh, if I can do anything, let me know, you know. And I bet he didn't think he'd be papering my living room today, you know. You've got to,
he'll fit your boiler if you want him to.
That's it, you can do that. But, you know, it's getting people, instead of putting people into workshops of, oh, you know, if somebody's struggling, actually get them help. Yeah. And I mean, one of the things the fire service would do is like, if you said, oh, I'm in financial difficulty, they wouldn't go, all right, there's £1,000. That'll help you. They'll say, right, let's get a look at your finances. Why are you in financial difficulty? Yep. Let's look at
Strategize it in a way.
Strategize it. Aye. And they'll say, you know, because the fire service, the fire brigade union are there, whether you're a current serving one or whether you're retired. They're there for you.
Perfect.
But it can be that way. And when I went to Antarctica, I'd actually changed my bank account, and it gave you an insight into how much money.
My bank account froze.
I know.
There we go. Pardon the pun.
But you actually see how much is going out and how much you don't need to be going out.
Yeah.
Like 14 quid to cat protection, that can get cancelled. You know, all these little things, and it's one of those ones. All these little amounts you don't see, they add up, and they add to your problems.
Chip away.
By getting all that cut back, you could then go, right, this is what I have, this is what I need to have, and you can cut your cloth accordingly.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of guys are struggling at the moment, but I mean, I see a lot of guys in the trade these days, and they've got turkey teeth, and they've got their hair done. I was speaking to a guy, he's got a chippy the other day, and he's like, I was as bald as you were. You know, I've got my hair done, I've got this, but you know, you've got a lot of guys who are trying to keep up with the Joneses.
We had one that he got his teeth done before he got his driving licence. You know, you're thinking he's paid $4,000 for his fucking teeth to be done or something. So all right, he's not got a driving licence. Just think about we're laying you off in a couple of weeks because you can't get to the next job.
Mm-hmm.
what? But you can smile the way fucking
Aye,
there.
aye.
Especially around these ways as well. We're coming down here, you'll see a bit of it.
And you've got, I mean, my apprentices, they're earning good money. But even that, they're saying to me, it's 150 quid for a night out.
Yeah.
And you're going, yeah. And you're going out, what, twice a week? So there's 300 quid straight to your bank account before you even do anything else.
Yeah.
And I've got a few apprentices who've now moved in with their girlfriends, or they've bought a house, or they've done this, and they've got the realities of life, you know. And
welcome.
They're like, aye, you think that's right? Aye, wait until you've all got to chip in, because one of my apprentices moved in with his mate, and they've split the bills, and he's like, aye, trying to get the gas, and it's like, aye, we've got to get the money for the, and then they're looking at what they've got left, going, we can't go out this week.
Yeah,
I'm going, that is the reality that many people, and I mean, I quite often talk about it. Kirsty Alsop had said about, a lot of folk can't get mortgages, they're still living with their parents, and it's like, yeah, but
look at society.
I mean, look at society. They're going to cost every day. They're spending a tenner on their lunch every single day.
They've got Netflix.
They've got Netflix. They've got Amazon. They've got Netflix.
Yeah.
They've got an Audi on HP.
Yeah.
They're going to be out with their Gymshark gear on. Their girlfriend's just had her teeth done. Blah blah blah.
Watch. Yeah, it's so cliche, isn't it? Yeah.
You're going. You need to look at that and go, this is the money I've got. This is what I need, because I'm not going to live with my parents when I'm 40.
Yeah. I noticed in the last 6 months that the lads are more aware of what they're spending. And fair play to them as well. But in the terms of knowing exactly how much the trainer work is now, not knowing it's about 20 quid. No, it's 17.25. They're on it now. You can tell everyone's clicked in a gear of, you got to be on this at the moment.
I was I lived week to week, I'll be honest with you, up until I went to Namibia. But Namibia was a monthly pay packet.
Yeah.
So you went, right, there's what I've got. There's my rent. I know I need this much for food every week. So I put that aside. This is what I have left. And you did learn a budget from what you were actually getting to what you actually need. And I think the problem you get is, I mean, there was a guy on social media the other day talking about, he was working with another trade. He didn't mention which trade this was, but he said, these guys want paid every day.
Yeah, jeez.
They want their money at the end of every single day. And he said, I'll work the week, or I'll work a fortnight, then I'll put my invoice in and I'll get paid. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, if I'm doing that, I would tend to work the week and then put my invoice in and get paid on the Friday.
Yep.
But I wouldn't expect to get paid every single day. And then these guys were, we're doing 8 hours, and they'd appear at 10, and then they'd go and drop the keys off at someone's house. They'd be back for 12:30, and they'd brought McDonald's, and, do you want McDonald's? And the guy's like, no, I'd rather just go on with something. And then they'd be away at 3 o'clock, even when the guy wasn't there, and then they're going, I've done 8 hours of work.
It's gone from week to week, day to day.
And it's going, I mean, and that's just no budgeting. And we're seeing more and more of that.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it comes down to the industry. It comes down to many different things. They've maybe seen that from whoever's taught them.
Yes, it's pressure in society, social media, it all comes into it, doesn't it? Yeah, it's a whole cocktail. Going back on it, I know we mentioned Namibia, but I'm keen. Antarctica. Talk us all about. I'm just picturing penguins and with tall belts on.
I was my friend Gav McInnes was a joiner. Worked for Stevie's in Perth, Stevens the Builders, and he went to Antarctica 2010, if I remember correctly. And when he'd come back, I says, I wouldn't mind going there. Some place at all. I went to primary school in Dundee, and Robert Falcon Scott's famous ship, the Discovery, that he went on his 1901 to 1903, I think it was, expedition, is in Dundee. That's where it was built. Yeah. And he went there with a Shackleton and all the rest of it. And they tried to make a go for the pole. And they got to about 86 miles from the pole, but they weren't well. And I don't think they'd quite taken on board. I mean, you're talking about walking from... You're typically talking about walking to the length of Great Britain, to get to the pole from the coast.
Gotcha.
And you're talking about temperatures. They're doing it in the summertime, but even in the summertime, you're talking minus 20. And they were trying to. Obviously, they didn't have the right gear, didn't have the right equipment, but a lot of that equipment hasn't changed. Mm-hmm. We still use canvas tents, but they're double skin canvas tents, things like that. We still use the same. It's oil, pressurized oil, because gas is too cold. Gas boils at minus 32, I think it is, for the LPG. but it's too cold for the gas to boil. Things like that. So, but no, Gav said, I'll have a word with them. And the British Antarctic Survey are actually based in Cambridge. So they invited me down for an interview, and I'd actually applied for the general labourer's job. Because I just wanted a break. As I said before, 2012 started off really bad.
Well, yeah.
And they went, well, we see, you've got all your plumbing code. You want to go down as a plumber? And I went, well, wait, Halley. Halley was their newest. It's like it's on the Brunt ice shelf, and it's like, it looks like a big train carriage. It's their newest building. It's all the blue blocks, and then there's a big red block right in the centre of it. And so I'd done the interview for it, got the job, and I went down there 2012, came back in 2014.
Yeah.
And it was just an amazing experience. But a lot of people get there and then they're like, whoa, because you're talking about probably as flat as that table. Piece of land, but the size of Wales, as flat as that table. And that was just the ice shelf we were on.
Was it, yeah.
And the base is there. And the ice shelf's moving to the coast all the time. And on average, it was moving with us about 1.1 metres to the west every single day.
Okay.
But everything's moving. It's like Britain's moving away from America.
Yeah, okay.
But you don't actually take on board how far it's actually moving, It's about the growth of your fingernails.
Yep.
But they've got GPS, so they monitor how far that goes. And if it gets too close to the edge, they just basically slide the units back again to its original position.
Yep.
And they did that quite recently when I had a crack in the ice shelf. But Halley's where they discovered the hole in the ozone layer. John Shanklin and his team, John and Joe and the team, they discovered that. And they initially thought their machine was broken. They used it as a spectrometer, Daphne. It's a Daphne Dobson spectrometer. And they thought the machine was broken because it wasn't picking up any ozone. So they brought a new machine down. Because you're only getting one delivery a year. We went down on the Ernest Shackleton boat. I got replaced by the David Attenborough. But we went down, they brought down a new machine, plugged the new machine in, and we're getting the same readings. And I'm told that they then got in touch with NASA and said, can you ping a satellite over the South Pole? Because we're not getting any ozone measurements. And it was only during the summer months.
Wow.
And they said, we realised that in the 70s, but we just thought our machine was broken. We just thought the satellite was broken and left it. So it's actually classed as a British find, but it's actually, I'm told it was actually the Americans, but it's listed as a British.
Keep that quiet.
Keep that quiet. But it was actually John Shanklin who, when we were down there, I was down there for the entirety of 2013. John Shanklin, one of the guys who discovered it, was still cutting the grass at Bass. The British Antarctic Survey. But my friend Robin Milne, she's an astrophysicist. They were down there measuring things like the Van Allen belt is the radiation belts that go around the sun.
Yep.
And that's why you get the charged particles going into the north and south. So you get the Aurora Australis up here so you get northern lights up here.
Yep.
The Aurora Borealis, up in the north. And at the south you get the Aurora Australis, so the southern lights. And you quite often see the southern lights at night as well. But it got dark with us probably, it was about the end of April, if I remember correctly, and it didn't get light with us again until about the 14th of August. So we were in 24-hour darkness for that whole period. Yeah. But,
what's that? Does that do to you? Does it do anything different, or just get around it?
You realise afterwards that it did have an effect on you. But, you're going outside middle of the day and it's just, there's stars out there. Yeah. But you get used to it.
But it's beautiful, the stars, that, wasn't it?
Oh, aye. Yeah. And it's so much
proper
clearer.
Stars as well, not just a couple.
Proper stars. You're getting the full,
show,
panoramic view, and you can see the satellites travelling. If you watch here at night, you can quite often see the satellites moving back and forward across the sky, but you can quite clearly see satellites and stuff like that moving about. And penguins everywhere. You'd get the occasional one coming up to the base, but we were beside the Windy Creek, and that was one of the largest penguin colonies. They're everywhere. And
so was you overseeing the base, the plumbing on the base?
Oh, plumbing on the base, during the summertime, there was roughly about 110 people there. Yeah. And people would leave, people would come back and things like that. And you quite often, you were plane hopping certain ones. We flew, initially when we were going, we flew Heathrow to Cape Town. We then got the boat from Cape Town down.
Yep.
And we only passed Bouvier Island, which is one of the most isolated land masses there. But it's a piece of rock, maybe 2 miles by 3 miles.
Yeah.
And you do a right turn there and head down to Halley that way. And on the way back up, we went through like the South Orkneys, Sydney Island, and back to the Falklands.
Okay, yeah.
But depending on which base, because we were at Halley, that's the way we went.
That's where some got stranded during COVID, didn't they? I think between the Falklands and the Antarctic, somewhere there. They wouldn't let them back on land. I think they were on the boat. Yeah, it was something. But, no, it was. I tell you what, because I spoke to a guy in the oil and gas industry, and he said that we've got guys out there and they're stuck on the boat because we can't get them back. Yeah,
that could well be the case.
Yeah,
because I know the other base they've got is Rothera, and it's on Adelaide Island, on the peninsula, the bit that sticks out towards South America. Okay, and they tend to fly their guys from Punta Arenas in Chile. Okay. So they'll fly the UK down to, sometimes it's Sao Paulo, but then they go to Punta Arenas and then they fly from Punta Arenas in. But we were both ways. Yeah. And I think it all depends on what flights are there, how many personnel you're getting off at that particular point. Yeah. There's a whole range. But I mean, the guy who took over from me was there for 2 days and he went, I'm going home. Mm-hmm. And I says, you're going home? He says, just not what I expected. 2 days, yeah. And I went, what did you expect? He went, well, he says, people say there's nothing here. He said, but it's like people say, oh, there's nothing in Malden. But you've got a Spoons, or you've got a Costa, or you've got this, you've got that.
He's been Malden before. we got them.
But he's like, there's nothing here. You've got the base. There's a couple of outhouses scattered around doing different bits of science work.
They're being true when they say there's nothing
here. There is not, and I was like, no, there is nothing here. We had a host of DVDs or things on file, movies you could watch, music you could listen to, but there is nothing there. So you're basically entertaining yourself.
Yeah.
And if you're struggling to entertain yourself, do not go down there.
Yeah.
Because the reality is it is a lonely, isolated place. And I mean, in those winter months, I mean, the boat left us. It was the James Clark Ross, which is another research vessel. It left on the 4th of April with all the summer crew. Mm. And we were left as a team of 13, and we never saw anyone until the 21st of November when a Canadian flight came in.
Yeah.
And it was dark. So you're stuck with those 12 other people, or I was stuck with 12 other people. That's the only contact you've got. Mm-hmm. We had Facebook, but Facebook would maybe take 5-10 minutes to load. Yeah. If you put a picture up, you can actually watch it going zzz, 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 and it would take 10-15 minutes for that one picture to upload.
Those 110 people you said is working the base as well. Are they there all on different things?
They're all doing different things. You've got scientists. You'll get a team of painters go down to paint the base. Really, yeah. You'll get a team of joiners go down to replace doors. Things that have happened during the winter time, that need replaced. They'll have
people from all over the world.
Pretty much, yeah. They can be. I mean, as I say, Robin Milne was there. She's an astrophysicist from NASA, but I'm sure it's the University of Massachusetts as well. I'm sure it's MIT she does as well. But Robin was down there doing her science experiments from NASA. You had we had joiners from the UK doing stuff. Painters from Liverpool, but you had other guys. I mean, quite a lot of the crew that work on the boats as well. They live internationally because you're never sure where the boat is.
Yeah.
I mean, when we changed the boat, we went down to the crew change was in the Falklands.
Yeah.
But then the next crew change was in Dundee. Okay. And so the team, Steve, who was one of the comms officers, Steve lives in Portugal, and he'll just get a plane ticket.
Yeah.
To where the boat's going to be. So these guys live all over the place, and they just meet to be where the boat is.
Such an interesting way of life.
I mean, I did think about it, and you can go through. I went through my qualifications to work on the boats, but my partner wasn't greatly keen on it because at that point the James Clark Ross was 4 months on and 4 months off, and the Ernest Shackleton was 3 months on and 3 months off. Mm-hmm. And one of the guys, Andy Walder, he lives on the Isles of Scilly. I'd never heard of the Isles of Scilly until I met him. And he's actually got I think it's a gin company he's got down there now. He's got a distillery company anyway. But Andy says, when I left, my daughter was 6 months old. I'm going to go back. She's going to be 9 months old, and I'm going to have seen a great change. Yeah. And I said, but you're getting 3 months off. And he went, yeah. He said, but you've got that week or 2 weeks where you're getting back into the swing of things.
Yeah.
He says, and then 2 weeks before you start leaving, he says, the atmosphere can kind of shift a wee bit because your good lady, she's supporting of you, but she realises you're going again in another 2 weeks and you'll be gone for 3 months.
Yeah. But that factors all the way down, doesn't it, as well? Because you're transient work, isn't it? You're away for 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
You're back home on a Friday afternoon. You get on the piss, have a drink up. Saturday morning, hungover. Get the kids for Saturday evening, maybe after Sunday morning. You pack your bags. You're gone Sunday night.
Well, that's. I mean, I know when we were doing
savage, isn't it?
I mean, I moved up to Inverness solely for the fact that I was only seeing my partner at the weekend.
Yeah.
So we were working Monday to Thursday was 12-hour shifts. So you were working 7 to 7. And then on a Friday, we were only having to work 7 to 9:30 in the morning because it was 3 hours to get back down the road. So we were doing that. So, I mean, Elaine didn't finish until 5 o'clock on a Friday. So Friday afternoon, you'd have to yourself. Then you spent Saturday with Elaine, Friday night, Saturday, a bit of Sunday, and then Sunday afternoon, you were getting ready to go back up the road for another week.
Yeah.
And she's like, I would prefer to see. She says, I'm sick of a part-time boyfriend.
Yeah.
I want a full-time boyfriend, so I'm going to move up so that I see more of you. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Surprised you want to spend that much time with me, to be honest with you. But that's that, and that is the reality for a lot of trades guys. And it's like I was saying earlier, that's when you get a lot of trades guys going, right, I'll just go to the pub. Because, I mean, we finished at 7 o'clock. I've gone back to my digs. I've got a shower.
Yeah.
I'm not going to eat another microwave meal. And I've had a few mates went, I've just got a job with somebody. Because the money was great.
Yeah.
On commercial stuff at that point, we were doing a 4-day week and we were getting 760 quid. And I went up to the length that we were, well, me particularly, they asked me to go up to a site that nobody wanted to go to. And I went, well, what's the deal with this site? And they went, well, if you do 3 days, we'll give you 1,300 quid. And I was like, well, and they went, we go up Monday night. So you stay Monday night, you do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, be around for a couple of hours on Friday and come back down the road. We'll give you 1,300 quid. Sign me up. Where'd I go?
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people look at the
carrot
money.
in it, the carrot's there.
Oh, the carrot's there. And a lot of people do it. And I mean, especially where we are in the Highlands, with the geography being the way it is, that is the reality of your job. You're going to be further away. You're not always going to get home at night. And I mean, I think that's when a lot of relationships then fail because of that.
Yeah. And it stuck with me. I've done COVID. During COVID, I worked a Christmas shift in the night because I had my little boy, and Christmas was pretty much cancelled when so I'd done that. But previous to that, I'd done a Christmas, and then done 2 Christmases on the railway: Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, New Year's Eve, and New Year's Day. Get double money plus 300 quid on top from Network Rail. They do that to everybody. Yeah, so a lot of people out there, it was like nearly $1,000 a shift sort of thing. You're really getting some, and then a lot of guys, because they've done that, they go, I'll make the most of working between Christmas and New Year as well, top that up. And then they all have their Christmas, a lot of them blowouts, summer holidays somewhere in the world, paradise at the end of January. But to me, it was like, well, the end of January, the Christmas vibe's gone. That's just a holiday, isn't it? But I spoke to this one guy, a big, massive lad from up north, and he come down, and he must have been in his 50s, 60s. And he said, Steve, you got kids? I said, well, not yet. I said, the plans are to have. He said, well, cancel Christmas. You won't have any more. And he said, just knock this on the head. He said, don't go down this world on here. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, my kids are 16 and 19. He said, I've never spent Christmas Day with them once. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, well, the first 5 years of his life, he was working Christmas because of the big money. At home. But after those 5 years, she had no one around and didn't want that lifestyle. He needed that money to facilitate the lifestyle they'd built. She disappears. The kids go with her because she's at home all the time. He's clearly not. He then, for the next, always knows, there's no point me being around for Christmas because my kids are at my missus anyway. I'll just work it. So he's missed the whole childhood of his family, his kids enjoying Christmas. He's never seen his kids open a Christmas present on Christmas Day.
I had a mate who'd done that as well. He had a massive business and he'd made up with his daughter, but his son just wouldn't speak to him. Yeah. And he's like, I spent too much time on my business. He said, it wasn't until I had a heart attack that I realised what I'd done. And I mean, one of my mates at the moment is like, I'm just going to keep working. And when I reach 55, I can retire. And I'm like, you'll maybe not see 55. Because I've got plenty of mates who've had heart attacks at 50 and 52 because they've just got so much pressure on them, so much stress on them, and they are trying to keep the money rolling in. Yeah. You know, I've got a lot of mates who've got no pension plan whatsoever.
No, that's it. Yeah.
Like, you know plan.
Yeah.
No, they'll just drop deed.
Yeah.
And you go, that's not really an option.
It's crazy. It's up to crazy. Like you said, this industry, you do drop dead. And people do, don't they? Yeah, it's fucking savage. But you got much on else the rest of the year? Any other big shows? Or is it kind of
no, it's kind of quiet. I'm trying to get more of my water saving stuff up and running.
Cool.
Because at the moment, we're wasting 50% of our normal drinking water, really flushing it down the toilet. I mean, we're one of the only countries, who bring in potable fresh water and flush it straight down the toilet.
Yeah.
And I mean, in Namibia, we learned that any of your grey water, so your water from your shower, your bath, your kitchen sink, your bathroom sinks, could go out and feed the garden.
Yeah.
Oh,
you put this up the other day, and I've got some new roses for my birthday. They say I'm midlife crisis is going on. My mother-in-law bought me a nice rose. I love it as well. Planted it, got it all in there. And I've returfed my grass, the front lawn, and I've reseeded the back from what was returfed last year. And I was getting there, but you put that post out. I was like, you bang on right. The whole bathtub's just gone out the fucking
good
down
right in the drain.
I'm paying for another load to spray my grass. So
and then you're saying, the sewage in this country is unbelievable. All the rivers getting polluted, and you don't need to be putting that much water into the sewage system, though.
Yeah.
I mean, and folks say, you can't do it in new houses. No, you can't. I know you can't do it in existing houses, and I can agree with that. But on these new estates, there's nothing saying you couldn't have. We've got a factored LPG tank in our place, so we've got one LPG tank which services the whole 98 houses in my new housing scheme. Realistically, there was nothing stopping them putting in a factored rainwater harvesting tank.
Yeah.
And there was nothing stopping them putting in a factored grey water harvesting tank to feed the toilets and the outside taps, because your outside taps for your garden, let's face it, or washing your car. And there are ways to treat this water, and other countries do it. So there's nothing stopping us doing it. And I mean, the British Geological Survey, the Environment Agency reckon that they will be 5 billion litres short per day by 2055.
So why not do something about it? It's crazy.
Why not do something about it now?
But this is where I suppose you may have realised, I mean not, but you've gone to Namibia, you've gone to Antarctica, you've learned how you live in these conditions. So it's you just want the industry to embrace what you've got as well and go, tell us how to do this, because you can do it in those conditions. We're so spoilt rotten over here.
During the winter time in Antarctica, we used to do a snow push, so you push snow in a container and it melts. We would do one of them a week. Yeah. So we had to be water conscious. All our toilets worked on a vacuum system. So there was no water in the toilets, it was just vacuumed.
Yeah.
And I say there was no water. You got a little bit of water just to rinse everything away.
Yeah.
But I mean, typically we flush 6 litres of water down the drain every day. That is 144 litres per household per day of fresh drinking water we pour right down the drain, which could be on a rainwater system or a grey water system. I mean, my mate Ross lives over in Starport, and he's beside the River Severn, which is one of the biggest rivers in the country. Yeah. There's nothing saying that you can't set up. You look at the Nile. The Nile has got irrigation on both sides. They've made use of that river, and there's nothing saying that we can't do. The Colorado River has gone to the extreme. I think it's only got something like 25% of its flow rate now, because they've taken it off to feed all these other things.
Yeah,
but there is capacity within our grey water system, as I say, baths, showers, that we can actually flush our toilets with that water and save. I mean, you look at your water bill. Imagine halving your water bill.
Yeah.
By using that.
Fucking full of soap, we'd clean even better, wouldn't it?
But there are many things we could be doing, and we are going to get to a point where we're going to turn the tap on, nothing's going to come out, and then it's going to be like, why is nothing coming out? It's like, well, remember all that drinking water you got in and you flushed right in the toilet? Yeah. And plumbers do it. I've fixed on a toilet, flush the toilet, is it working fine? Aye. Flush the toilet again, aye, that's fine, right? It's filling up. I'll just adjust that, flush it again, right, that's a level. Suddenly you've wasted 18 litres of water, you know? And I said it the other day, you know, you get kids over here doing a walk for water to raise funds. You've got somebody over in Africa, and that's their daily life. They walk for water, you know. I think it was Sam Kinison. It's like, you know, he sees those things and he's like, you see people living in the desert, and he's like, you live in the desert? What did you expect? Move over here. That's where all the food and the water is, you know. But we are, and I guarantee you we're going to get to a point in this country, because it's getting warmer and it's getting drier. Act now, because in 2050 we are going to have that problem. And I mean, people just aren't taking that on board, and I'm going to stop now because I'm kind of preaching, but it is definitely that we are in a position to act now. So now is the time to actually start looking at it. Yeah. And if we're building so many new housing schemes, get a factored grey water in, get a factored rainwater in. Because the Environment Agency, on the BBC the other day, the Environment Agency said, and I couldn't believe this, we're going to have more floods and more droughts. And I thought, how can you have floods and droughts? But they haven't got the infrastructure there to deal with that water. Yeah. So the drains are blocked, so it just runs right in the river and it goes away. Yeah. And I mean, you look at somewhere like Tenbury Wells, it floods on a yearly basis, And it was on the news last year because a farmer drove through the floodwater and burst all these shop doors open. Yeah. And everyone's going, oh, my house is ruined.
See that one. Yeah,
and I'm like, you live in Tenbury Wells, right? Yeah. It floods every single year. Yeah. And yet you bought a house in Tenbury Wells. Yeah. I mean, I'm like, I've been going out to Tenbury Wells for the last 30 years at least, right? And I know it floods on a yearly basis. But you bought a house in there and then you complain when it flooded. I remember in Pitlochry.
They didn't change the weather pattern because you've moved it.
Exactly. And I mean, Pitlochry, they tried to build, I think it wasn't a travel lodge, I'm sure it was a Holiday Inn. And they got knocked back by Perth and Kinross Council. And one of the reasons it got knocked back was it's on a floodplain. And I'm like, one of the reasons it got knocked. I said, that should have been the only reason it got knocked back.
They built on it a floodplain over here, Haybridge over the back. Yeah, they did, and everyone pulled it up. They've gone for it, hasn't it yet? But it's there, sitting there, but like a duck, waiting for water.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you'll be like, you'll stay there one night, you'll come out and your car will be floating down the river, and you'll be like, I didn't expect that. Does insurance cover that? Well, no. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of these folk, I can't get house insurance. You've bought a house in a known flood place. It's like Bewdley as well, But we went to Bewdley last time I was at Installer Show because it's about 3-4 miles along the road from my mate's house. It's on the Severn and it floods every year. Yeah. And I'm looking about and my mate says, "Oh, what do you think?" And I've been to Bewdley a few times. And I said to one of his mates I hadn't met before, I said, "I'm not used to seeing Bewdley like this. It's usually underwater." It's like, it's true, it's underwater and folks still buy houses right in the waterfront. Yeah. Oh, you can put our chairs in that and sit and watch the river. And I was like, yeah, but I'll be in your living room before you know it.
Yeah, crazy, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Jimmy, it's been amazing. How long was that, Al? A couple of hours.
Just round up.
Just round up. We'll get going. No, absolute pleasure. We've gone through so much. That was, so much to go. I'm glad you come down. We made the most of you being down here. That's for sure. Usually got an hour or so, but we've been more than that. We touched anything we ain't touched on. I think we're all there.
No, I think that's everything now.
I appreciate you coming down. Enjoy Install the Show. Thanks a million for coming down, and thanks for being so open with us. And for being on the other end of the line when we're calling you and touching base. And we have to come back up to you now and repay the favour. We've been up there once. I can't wait to get back up there.
Thanks very much for having me. And I would say, if you're out there doing something in construction, don't listen to any criticism. Just keep doing what you're doing, because at the end of the day, if you want that change to be happening, you need to be sticking your head above the parapet. There's too many people out there say, oh, that's wrong and that's wrong and that's wrong. If it's so wrong, start something. Start acting on it.
Yeah, 100%.
Because that's, if at least you can hold your hand up and say, I tried. I tried.
How many times in the last 10 years, I'm going, what's he doing? That's fucking ridiculous. I go, okay, well, what the fuck are you doing?
What are you doing about it? That's it. Because you'll get folk going, oh, you'll never change that. Maybe you won't. But, and it's like somebody said to me, you'll never change anything. You'll never stop that. And I said, I'm not trying to stop that. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to pick the ball up at B and carry it to D. So that in 5-10 years, somebody's going to pick up at D, knowing this has already been done, and they can carry it to G or H.
Yeah.
That, you're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but if you can see something, act on it and try and do something.
No, I get told the last thing, if I finish it on, is people keep saying to us, mental health, it's complex, too complex. And they're like, there's just not a fucking legitimate, that's not an excuse. No. There's a plumbing to me is very complex. I don't understand it. So find people who can. So there's people out there who can help with all this, isn't there? But Jim, pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Dinner time, I reckon.
Dinner time.
Thanks, pal.
Sorry.
Cheers, Jim.